Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waliddallin. Sadaqallahu azim. Again, Assalamu alaikum all. And we are certainly pleased and even to the point of being elated to be present and accounted for this 26th day of 2026, April. And we are looking at a bountiful season ahead of us. We're entering in the spring in this part of our planet, our home. And here in the southeastern part, experiencing a little drought, but nevertheless, Allah's always in control, and we adjust accordingly. And so we should be looking to a growing season, internally and externally, and we should be moving step by step to this time that we're in of being more and more showing gratitude for Allah's favors, for what Allah has gifted all of us with. And the way we demonstrate that, uh, on the one hand, we do it verbally. We do it by writing it down. And of course, that's what we do at the beginning of our class. We actually uh, identify at least 10 things that we have to be thankful for. And make that a habit if you have not done so on a ongoing basis in your life experience, uh, but at least once a day. Uh, and it's even healthier, of course, to do it throughout the day. Remind yourself of all that you have to be grateful for. And it'll kind of even your day out. It'll kind of, if you, during the course of a day, if you find some highs and lows during your day, it'll kind of even all of that out, and give you a sense of balance as you move forward. And uh, with that, I just want to share some thoughts as we ease into um, today's class. Again, we have so much to be grateful for, and every time that I allow my perception to expand. And those of us who have been actively involved in the psychology class on Tuesdays, uh, I just want to remind you of one of the points that instructor has directed us to pay attention to, and that's this concept of contraction and expansion in our whole life experience, because it's very important to see those things happening almost simultaneously. And so during the course of your day, the person who's alert, wide awake, as we used to say back in the day, and paying attention, uh, they'll uh, they'll meet the lows with expectation, and they'll meet the highs during the course of a day with expectation. Now, one of the things that I've been doing on a continuous basis, I've been working to make my day conform more and more to the fitra. Now, what do I mean by that? I've been looking at this 24 hours that we designate as a full uh, time span for a day, and I'm looking at that as as a completed cycle. And I said, now if I'm looking at uh, living that 24 period and getting the most out of it, then I'm going to do my best to consciously conform to the patterns that I'm in the federal. So again, what we're sharing here is being grateful, but showing how we take our nunetics learning journey and experience and apply it in our everyday life experience. So if I'm thinking, if I'm utilizing my prefrontal cortex, where I step into my role as a creator, and I'm consciously making decisions to step into the bounty of Allah's gifts that's available for all of us at any point in time. We're not limited to two or this three-dimensional reality, as it's called. We're not limited to that. You know, some in some circles will even call this universe, they call it multiverses. So we're not limited. We're not limited to just this, what we might consider this material, this physical, this three-dimensional part of the reality. We're not limited to that. So if we look at our 24-hour period of time, and we think in terms of things we've learned again in our nunetics environment, of the four birds, the four rivers, the four elements, you know, uh, air, fire, water, and land, and see how that applies psychologically and spiritually, socially, across the board in the human experience. But if we look at that in terms of how we take charge of our day and optimize that living experience, that's how you show gratitude, by taking what you have and using it. Allah said He would grant us utility of the heavens and the earth. So how do you do that? You take your day and say, okay, I got 24 hours in this day. So if I were to look at it in terms of blocks of time where I give priority, meaning I'm giving focus, I'm paying attention in blocks of time, and I'm not going to leave anything out. So I'm going to look at this part of the day that where I might be more focused on the air quality of the patterns in this fitra, you know. And what does that mean for me in terms of this whole concept, all the things that we've learned about air and about spirituality and about the unseen, about the internal experience of this life, looking at that, bringing that in and focusing that, and then looking at the fire, and that element and what that suggests on these different levels. Uh, and my intellect, my rational development, my taking that and making it work for me and my family, and then looking across all of those four blocks, and I could go on further with that, but looking at the air and what it suggests, the fire and what that suggests, the water and what that suggests, the land and what that suggests in terms of blocks of time when I give certain priorities to certain expressions in my life, certain areas of growth in my life during those periods of time, you'll be able to optimize your 24 hours. And you get in and you practice that. And the more you practice that, the more you can take advantage of this vast opportunity that we have, and virtually unlimited opportunity. Some call it the ether, where all the potential and the possibilities exist, that as the quantum mechanic people in the quantum mechanics and quantum physics, they call it the the quantum field of unlimited possibility and potential that's available to me and to you at any moment in our life. We have an infinite amount of possibilities that we can plug into, meaning we can live wherever we are in our life right now. And we don't have to float into the ether to take advantage of it. But wherever you are in your life right now, live it fully. By paying focused attention on putting you all into the moment according to how you uh, determine this time of the day that I'm in right now. Like it's 1 o'clock or so, a little bit after right now, and this 24-hour period. And maybe during this block of time, I'm focused uh, more on fire, you know, more on developing the intellect. So as I go through things that I have scheduled for today, and of course, for us, it's our class right now. So I'm really focused on this being my priority. And I might do other things during this block of time. But my main focus in terms of the things that I actually schedule will be according to the developing myself uh, mentally, developing my creative ability, that part of the fire in terms of I'm taking control of my life and living the optimum part of my life. Now, what I did yesterday during that block of time uh, was yesterday in terms of where I was in my growth yesterday, but today I should be advanced. Okay, now, uh, how do we tie this down? Uh, I was kind of expecting our brother Abdullah Muhammad. I just want to put that out so he stayed reminded that we're looking forward to his presentation as he has the time availability to share that with us. But he's been really encouraging us to think on what's called often on a cosmic level, thinking beyond our everyday experience. But we also want to even take that and apply it in terms of how it relates to where we are with ourselves and our family and taking care of our day-to-day responsibilities and our growth and our development, meeting our circumstances today. We don't want to limit ourselves to just what's in front of your nose, but we want to account for where I am right now and factor that in, you know. And so when you do that, you are completely present in the moment and giving all that you have been gifted with from the source creator in the moment according to your past experience and how that have brought you up to where you are right now in your life, with what you're experiencing, what your family's experiencing, what's happening out in the community. You're delivering whatever piece that you have in that puzzle. You're giving your all in that. And as you do that, you're receiving all that's available for you in that moment. This is how you take this knowledge, this information, and make it work for you. I'll give you a case in point. I've been researching and studying uh, this idea, bring up some of this information I want to share with you. And there's a concept that has been discussed in the scientific circles that has to do with it's called the holographic universe theory. And it's something that stirs the mind, and it will take you if you give attention to it uh, to what some might consider the cosmos, the macro uh, part of the universe, the bigger part. We just had a flight, we were told, to the moon being led by uh, an African American, which was something we should take note of and be grateful for. Uh, but that level of thinking in terms of uh, possibility. We're not limited to small thinking, all right? But this whole idea of the, let me bring it up here. I, I'm using a couple of different resources of notes. I'm just bear with me. This holographic universe theory is a concept that the scientists are looking at and people are talking about online. And they're talking about the things that we can learn and utilize from what's known about the whole concept of black holes. Without going into a whole lot of detail, you can do your own research on that. It doesn't take much. You know, you can just go on your favorite search engine and put in black hole or put in the concept I just shared with you, the holographic universe theory, and for yourself, you do that. You do your own homework. But what it'll do, it'll allow you to expand your thinking, your ability to think, and expand your being able to handle the situation today. If you expand your thinking, remember we're in a we have contraction and expansion, and those two processes can actually happen uh, simultaneously almost. Just think about so how to tie this in terms of what we're doing in Nunetics. In order to bring these ideas so I can share with you today, a little earlier today, I listened to the module that instructor Benjamin Bilal and I did on Aleph, you know, which is the first letter, of course, uh, in the Arabic language system. And I refreshed my memory on that. And I brought that up, and it gave me so much more insight trying to handle this idea of holographic universe theory so that I could relate it to you where you can get some benefit from it, all right? So this idea of the black hole, the scientists really don't know what's in that black hole. They say that it's a star that's reached its limit in terms of its life sp span and shining and giving out energy in that phase of his life. But what it does, it collapses and it collapses in on itself. So that theory of contraction, it collapses and it becomes so dense and so heavy until uh, it, but it's something that the scientists can't really see with their most powerful instruments. They can't really see it visually, but they know it exists because of the influence that it has on everything around it. So I was thinking about this whole idea of black holes and the holographic universe theory, you know. And I said, but okay, but those things, those words, there's the word whole, WHOLE, living a complete life today, you know, being completely present in this moment on the one hand. And then on the same time, it, is there a dual or a secret kind of meaning that's packed into this word? Uh, I'm looking to be complete and whole, WHOLE, but is there something else that's being projected that will put me in a HOLE? Sometimes they call them rabbit holes, right? That will suck me down into to an environment where I don't really want to be, you know. So I'm using my own intellectual capacity to look at it and allow my mind to expand to the macro concept of what a black hole is. But at the same time, or how can I utilize that today so that I can grow and develop myself and get the most out of this moment for me and my family. So this idea of Aleph, as I looked at it, that it represented the spine, and uh, while the spine was very rigid, it allows us to be upright, you know, and it also is flexible, you know. So I said, okay, in terms of me dealing with, say, my wife and my children, my grandchildren, there are some things that we have to be real rigid on, but other things we have to be flexible. I was sharing with international instructor before class, and with especially as a father, you have this tendency to want to zoom in to members of the family to see how you can support them and how you can share the benefit of your experience, which is usually more vast than the other members of the family. How can you share that with them to support them where they are in their life? But at the same time, when you zoom in like that, the wise person will zoom back out, meaning you don't want to get so involved in trying to correct what you see that needs to be corrected or expanded in their life till you invade their space and make them uncomfortable and actually cause more harm than good. So it's a balance, and how we can take this information and knowledge. That's what I'm sharing with you. How you can take Aleph, how you can take the knowledge and the wisdom that's coming from studying the spine in terms of it being rigid and also flexible, and apply it in how you deal with yourself, how you deal with your family members, and how you deal with your neighbors, and even the challenges that we get in a society. So I hope you're following me. We are gifted right now with so much in the knowledge and in the wisdom and in the insight that we're gaining and the skills that we are developing, being able to think into the words that form our life and see how does that applying right now and how I function and how I continue to grow and how I am able to manage my moving forward. So I've actually, for myself, what I've actually done, I've had developed a whole uh, outline that I'm using to govern how I utilize my time during a 24-hour period. I'm not going to share it with you now, but what I did, I took the 24 hours and I blocked it into 6-hour blocks. And I said during those 6-hour blocks, I would focus on certain elements that we've studied in our class, and I would focus my attention on and on doing those particular blocks so that I'm actually actively engaged in monitoring my own growth. Now, one of the things that we've learned, especially in our psychology class, is that where it's being reinforced that we are learning to be better frequency modulators, meaning we are or more aware of the frequency, the vibrational frequency that I'm engaged in presently. What do I mean by that? This time of the day, during this block that I've acknowledged for myself, when I'm really focused on intellectual development, uh, creative development, uh, during this block of time, I'm giving more attention to uh, the kind of uh, idea or the kind of meaning that will help stretch my thinking, but at the same time, allow me to plan on a better tomorrow. So I'm thinking in terms of the moment, taking care of whatever I have to take care of in the moment for myself and for my family, but I'm also looking at, okay, what does a better tomorrow look like? What does a better uh, the next strong seven look like? What does a better next year look like? And so I'm focused my attention on creating something, working now to think forward in terms of the best optimum life experience that I can see for myself and my family a year from now, what that looks like, what it feels like, what will I be doing, who will be involved in that picture. I'm picturing that in the moment, but at the same time, I'm doing stuff now that will help prepare me for what I'm visioning for the future. So again, I'm utilizing this knowledge, and that's what I'm sharing, with you all. And we've been so fortunate, so blessed to be able to move into this cosmic realm of looking at and looking at what's happening and all that energy that's inside of that black hole, knowing that we have that kind of stuff inside of us. Now, to finish this idea, and then I'll pass the talking stick. But to finish this idea of this cosmic level of thinking and utilizing it in its daily experience. Now, one of the things that they talk about in this idea is a holographic universe theory. They talk they talk about the uh, this concept of living what's called the three-dimensional reality. In other words, three dimension is something that has length, height, uh, width, depth to it. All right, those are the three dimensions. When we actually look at something that we consider uh, th- uh, this physical solid things around us, including our physical body, we call that three-dimensional. The three-dimensional life experience that we live in. Now, some people will allow themselves to drift into this cosmic thinking, and they will say that everything is illusion in the sense that three-dimensional experience is not real. I don't accept that. All of this is part of the reality. I mean, Allah is the only reality, but Allah has created all of this, so Allah's will is in the whole thing. So if I'm experiencing uh, this, what I need to feed this body, that's okay, to give this body all the proper nutrients that it needs, the rest that it needs, the exercise that it needs, in order to optimize my level of energy and to maintain the state of health that I want for myself, to be vibrant and alive and being able to serve my own interests, my family's interests, then I'm taking uh, this three-dimensional reality as something that's as much a part of the reality if I look at it two-dimensionally. And two-dimension is when I maybe take a writing utensil and actually scribe on a piece of paper. That's called like two dimensions there, you know. And but what the and this holographic universe theory, what they're saying is that maybe this reality, and sometimes they kind of they little you can get a little spooked up with it, right? On the edge of the universe, maybe there's a two uh, dimension where the code is inscribed for this three-dimensional part of the reality. In other words, the what's happening, the written instructions that's written, if you will, in our DNA or in our genes. That's what. So Allah has given us written instructions in terms of how He has designed this life to perform and operate. So when I see myself as being complete and not uh, the whole self in terms of being HOLE, there being something empty inside of me, but no, the whole self in terms of being complete. When I envision that, being completely present in this moment and utilizing all the gifts that Allah has given me, you know, and being able to express that and see that delivered in terms of the things that I do and in my actions and interactions and how I help myself and how I help my family out, how I help the community out. Now I'm utilizing this information, but I'm not limiting my ability to think and to expand uh, and give meaning that the scientists need. And you and I can give the kind of meaning using Nunetics. We say that we are frequency modulators, meaning we can take the frequencies of this whole life experience and we can sense, we can feel, we can uh, give the proper kind of appreciation for what we're feeling inside, what we're expressing as we emote. Again, using the language, the environment that we've developed in our Nunetics class, that we've taken these feelings and when we express them outwardly in terms of how we act and how we express ourselves, that's emoting. That's the emotions, right? And we're taking those thoughts and we're expressing them and we're acting on them. So as we do that, we are conscious of how we are uh, influencing our spouse, our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors. And so we're taking that information, feeding it back in. Then we say, okay, the kind of response that I'm getting is not the type of response I think where I'm giving my best in this moment. So let me rethink this. I'm modulating my frequency. I'm checking my thoughts. I'm saying that thought that came from somebody else in my past. That's not working right now. So let me slow down a little bit and before I speak, let me think about it and choose a more effective word that's going to generate a better frequency, you know, to this person, and I can look and see how I'm influencing or impacting this room that I'm in with my loved ones or with some strangers, and see the kind of energy that I'm putting out and what I'm experiencing coming back from them, and so now I can maybe I just need to smile. Maybe I need to say something. Maybe I need to be quiet. But I'm modulating my frequency. And as I do that, I'm also acting as a modulator for the frequency in the environment. So I hope these things will help you just see how can you take this information and this knowledge, think with it, practice it, plan with it, play with it, have fun, play with it, but grow with it. Don't stay the same, be the same person that you were yesterday, tomorrow. Don't plan on being the same person. Plan on, this contraction, but also expansion part of the process. Constantly expand. Constantly, as Dr. Joe Dispenza liked to say, constantly in this cosmic order, in the quantum field that people like him call this ether, of all this infinite possibilities in this moment, then all I have to do is modulate the frequency. The language he uses is raise your energy, match the energy of the person that you want to become and be in this moment. Just raise your energy. Practice getting in tune. Uh, he calls it uh, tuning into new potentials. That's the phrase he uses. So he said, all you have to do is raise your energy to match the frequency of this level you need to be at right now to get the kind of response that you need from your spouse, from your family, from your grandchildren, from your neighbors, from the stranger that you're dealing with. So we practice this thing. We go into meditation and we practice, when we go into meditation, we practice raising our frequency level, you know, and we do that by thinking certain thoughts and then uh, energizing that thought with elevated emotions, you know, love, gratitude, there are a lot of them, by taking this thought of a better way for me to act and perform over what I was yesterday. Today, I want to improve the situation, so I'm meditating, modulating my frequency so that I can think of the kinds of thoughts, I can feel the kind of feelings associated with this thought that's going to give me the kind of behavior that's going to allow me to do more and higher quality things with my life and my relationships with my loved ones and with people that I don't even know. So that's how we get a handle on this life, y'all. It's a step-by-step process. It's practice. It's learning what we have, not just for the sake of learning. You're not learning to be heavy or or to sound wise, just to sound wise, you know, so you can press somebody. No, you know, we're in this life to experience it, to enjoy it, to have fun, to have experiences with our loved ones. I mean, that's what life is about, you know. So you don't want the same experience that you had again yesterday or last year or 10 years ago. We should constantly be moving forward. Allah is always involved in an act of creation. And we likewise, we are not the creator, we're not source creator, but as creators, we should constantly be improving our quality of life. That's what Nunetics is about. It's about taking what we have and using it. All right, so with that, I'm done. Karima, you had a question before we take this talking stick and pass it on?
I don't
Or,
have a question. I guess want to say first of all to Nawa that I am so grateful to see you from your absent, and I know I'm grateful to see all our instructors, but you especially I did truly miss. Okay, and but what Brother William, what I'm thinking right is like we have, they say, a black hole here on Earth. I don't know if you heard about it, but they said someplace, I forgot exactly where it was, but it's like that black hole attracts, it's almost like magnetic. And I'm thinking about when we say how the universe started on that micro level, how it um, was a spark, that spark, and we know that spark is also in us. And so I'm thinking, right, that when we open ourselves up, how Allah gives us that those frequencies and energy that pulls us into, I can't say it's not a black hole, but it does pull and magnetize us to help unfold our energy to a more cosmic level. So we constantly pulling, I'm going to say pull, but it's constantly downloading things to us to bring us to that higher level that we are seeking. But some people may say it's an unfolding, but I still like that unfolding because when you unfold something, it you keep that wholeness intact, but that wholeness also expands outwards and bringing you to that which we are seeking and raising us to that higher level.
I love
So,
that.
but yeah, that's what I'm thinking when you was talking, and I'm saying like, why you going out there in the universe when we have something right here on Earth that we can study, that they say magnetize things into that black hole. So if you get over it, it pulls you directly in it. So where's that? Where is that object going when it's being magnetized in it? So why aren't you looking at that? as a holographic um, energy, so to speak, instead of going someplace outside into the universe. It's, as they say, as above, so below. So why don't you use what's right here and
Ms.
kind of figure out what's going on in ourselves instead of looking for out there.
As a matter of fact, you captured it as above, so below, uh, as without, so within.
Right.
That captures that whole idea and makes it very simple. The whole idea of this holographic universe theory. That's it right there. It explains it and it gives us a handle on it. Now, another thing our some of our ancestors that entertain these kinds of thoughts and Kemet there. They were actually looking at uh, the and where we get the listen to that module on Aleph, and our instructor is directing us to the capital letter A and what that signifies, and the lowercase letter a and what that signifies. Yes, exactly. In terms of how we can gain information and knowledge from both of those concepts that we can utilize in our life. So while the capital letter A, in terms of the manipulators, they see it as a separation where the leadership in their secret orders separate themselves. And there's a separation on the one hand. On the other hand, it's a concept that establishes leadership that we should lead ourselves. We should lead our home environment. We have uh, we have a leading role in terms of being able to decide what I'm going to think during the course of this 24-hour period, the kind of thoughts I'm going to hold on to, and the kind of thoughts I'm going to let just drift off out into outer space somewhere or into a black hole, however you perceive it. But I have that power, you know. So
Right.
the main thing I'm trying to share with everyone is to take the knowledge and raise the kind of question that I really love the way you pictured that and brought it into the present and raised another question. You know, it was interesting. I was before class. I went into the kitchen and I was noticing some things that one of my family members had gone. They had cleaned up the kitchen, but there's some things that they didn't do. I felt like being critical about it, right? You know, but then I kind of stepped off for a minute and said, "Well, I don't know what that person was dealing with when they came in here and did whatever they did, so I need to just leave that alone and go ahead and just appreciate whatever they did, right?" So it's catching yourself in the moment and seeing, okay, how can I apply this information? You know, how can I give my best to this moment instead of having a knee-jerk reality that maybe don't even belong to you. Maybe you got it from your daddy or your mama back in the day when you were 2, 3 years old, and you inherited some of their lack of development. You know, where they were giving you the best they had to give you, but now you're getting ready to express that to a family member instead of just catching yourself, modulating your frequency, and giving your best in this moment. You understand what I'm saying? So I love the way that you did that, though. But so we have to constantly be in this process of expansion and contraction. There's no problem with going to the macro, you know, and thinking about the concept of black hole. They don't know what's in the black hole. They're guessing. They're making some pretty good guesses, you know, but to take that, but bring it right back down in terms of how can I apply that right now, which is what you just basically did, and you brought it right home. That's how we use this knowledge, and we keep improving the quality of our life. So as this world continues to implode upon itself, now we'll be able to offer a level of thinking. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people, and the way this came to my attention, I was working with, I went on a Zoom call with a very dear friend of mine that I've been knowing for what, 60 years. So, and I went on a Zoom call with him because he was having some real serious emotional issues as because he was kind of steeped in Catholicism, right? And the very rigid kinds of rituals that implies. But he was trying to break free from that, not to leave the Catholic religion, but he was trying to understand it at a higher level. But he was having some real serious issues. So I got on a Zoom with him, listened very carefully to him, and then I tried to play these ideas back to him. You know, so he was got to this point where he said, well, everything's an illusion. So so right now what he's doing, he's communicating with people throughout the world that are trying to break free of the enslavement of people's minds and their spirits, and they're and in their process of doing that, they're kind of drifting right now. So we have been gifted in our numetics environment where we can help the world. We can help our friends, our family members by using the knowledge that we have. First, we have to practice it ourselves. But as we catch ourselves, like you just indicated just a moment ago, and the way you shared that, and when we catch ourselves kind of drifting into that outer space like that. And then we bring ourselves back down and say, in the moment right now, like I just did in that kitchen environment, the moment right now, how can I apply this information so that I can have a better today for myself and my family so that we can have a better tomorrow? We can do the same thing as we relate to what's happening in our government here in America, what's happening in the world, what's happening on the continent, what's happening over in Iran right now, and the rest of the Muslim world, and the Catholic world, or wherever. We can utilize the knowledge that we have in our genetics environment. We can qualify ourselves to be better, even better instructors, so that as we go, as Adam comes back and helps us get more ready to be online and share with the world, we can be even more effective because we're practicing it ourselves. So that's why I was sharing this information today. But thank you. I appreciate the way you took it and acted on it right away.
You're quite welcome.
So, uh, I'm going to I really took the liberty of I took the liberty of taking a few extra moments and kind of filling in what I kind of anticipated Muhammad Abdullah was going to share. But and took the opportunity to kind of share this piece with the class in terms of how we can take this knowledge and allow ourselves to expand like that and think cosmically on that level and operate on higher levels, but at the same time, don't leave the seven energetic levels that we've learned in our class, going from the root chakra to the crown chakra, and being able to activate that you talked about, that activate that pineal, be able to activate that and download like that, but to utilize it, in our everyday life experience. So with that, I'm going to take this talking stick. I'm going to pass it on to Nawa in case she has anything that she wants to share. And then we have our uh, international instructor coming up to share with us about stars. And I can't wait for that, how it relates to our personality development. You know, Mathematically, when I think of stars, my mind went uh, to the five-pointed star, and then it went to the six-pointed star, with the two triangles, the inverse triangles superimposed upon each other, what all that might imply. My mind went all over the place. I'm interested in hearing what an international instructor has to say about those things. So, and with that, I'll pass the talking stick on to Nawa, and I'll get my note-taking materials ready for the national instructor and for We're also going to hear from Karima Medina Bilal, I'm pretty sure. So I'll pass the talking stick now.
All right. Thank you, Instructor William. As always, that's you just give us so much insightful information. I mean, you have your own I don't want to use the word lectures, but your own lectures going. So we just thank you for being able to bring forth such expansive ideas, but then it also encourages us to think inward, as Karima had mentioned in her comment. And I thank you also, Karima, for your comment as well. I'm always happy to see everyone in class. So that's a good thing. So I highly encourage everybody to re-listen to this, specifically this section that Instructor William just educated us on, and start working on application. Before we got on this call with the group, we discussed between Instructor William and Instructor Bilal, we discussed application and actually being active participants. We always speak to it, but we want to work on that more. But that activity comes from within ourselves. We can encourage each other as much as we can and as much as we're able to, but a lot of it does come from within. So as we start to get these very expansive ideas and philosophies and thoughts, specifically tied to Allah's fitra, we also need to apply it, or then it's just knowledge for knowledge's sake. And, we have levels of knowledge that it's spoken of in the Quran, so we need to be active. Um, and I just highly suggest we all play this back in a day or two, let this absorb, but then listen to it again, and let's start working on applying it to our own households, for our own selves, and for our greater community. So, and Instructor William, we truly thank you for that, because it is 2:04 and we know that Instructor Karima, will be presenting for us today to guide us in our health and wellness journey while we're still here. That's going to take its course, and then we'll follow up, as Instructor Williams say, with Instructor Bilal's on STAR. So I'm going to cut it off here, and I'm going to pass the talking stick over to Instructor Karima.
Peace and blessings to everybody. I'm so grateful. When I say I'm grateful to be here, I mean it sincerely. You may have heard that I've been under the weather, and I like to say I was fighting something. That's what I am. I'm a fighter. And I'm going to share with you a couple of tips that you can use for fighting things. Specifically, the title of my presentation, a short one, is called Fighting Sickness, your HHC, your home health clinic. Your home health clinic. If you don't have one, you should. You definitely should. A little bit of background. I hate the word came down with. I came down with a soft tissue infection. And soft tissue infections are generally, in my case, was a bacterial infection of the skin. And in order to, what was interesting was it just made me feel so awful. And it just took all the life out of my body, and I just was feverish and miserable and so on and so forth. Now, here is where self-awareness, paying attention to your body comes in, and we're having the tools of the trade come into play. You do not have to be a provider. You can simply, the fact that you are aware of your body, you're paying attention to your body, and you notice that something is wrong. There's a part of the system that is not working properly. Then you can begin the same way that a plumber, an electrician, a mechanic would do. You can begin isolating where is the problem. And once you can, as was said in the Quran, tell it its name, tell the angels, I think that's how it goes, tell the angels their names, you can fight what you can identify. Difficult to fight what you do not know, difficult to fight what you cannot identify. But once you do, you can begin to bring all the forces that you need to bring to bear on the problem. So the first thing, as I stated, is you have to have self-awareness. I will send the notes that I have to you after the replay. For whatever reason, we weren't able to share a screen with them. But this is something that you learn first go in nursing. First go, how to take vital signs. Once you take your vital signs, you've cleared away one of the big levels, one of the big layers, I should say, of things that are clues that tell you what's going on. So you need a thermometer, a digital Fahrenheit thermometer. You can get it at Dollar Tree. Used to be, they were mercury filled. Those are difficult to read and simply not necessary anymore. You can get the ones that are digital, and they will show you in clear letters what your temperature is. At what point should you become concerned? Well, normal temperature is somewhere around 98.5 to 98.9. That's a nice, healthy range. Most people will hover in there, 98.6. So when you get to, and this is how amazing Allah's creation is, once you go up 0.3 of a point from 98.6, 4 points, 0.4 of a point to 98 point, from 98.6 to 99, you have what's called a low grade fever. And you'll see that with colds, you'll see that with viruses, you'll see that with beginnings of tissue infection. So get that. Now, if you want to be a little bit more exotic and you have a little bit more money to spend, you can use the thermometers that they were using in COVID, which are the digital thermometers. You just point it at the forehead and it'll give you a reading that way. I like the put it under your tongue, wait for it to beep, and then you know what's going on. Wipe it off with alcohol and you can use it for a really, really long time. You can use it if you simply get cut the finger off those gloves that you use for mixing meat when you're cooking. Just do that and you can share it with other family members when you need it. So first go is get yourself a digital thermometer. And know that the higher the temperature, the more concerned you should be. When you start getting into 102, 103, 104, you stop dealing at home and you start going to your urgent cares or your ERs. Got it? That's what you do. That's first degree nursing school. You got to do that. Second thing that will help you is a blood pressure device. They have them for your upper arm. They have them for your wrist. For those of us who are on the chunky side, I like the wrist, but here's what you must know about the wrist. When they're intended to work on your brachial artery, which is this part here, way up in here, right? Now, if you have chunky arms, then even if you have the large blood pressure cuff, it's going to raise, it's going to show high. And that can be concerning, especially when you're in the doctor's office and you go to the doctor's office and he puts the thing on there, it squeezes you. I've come away with bruises after it because the machine has to squeeze so hard in order to be able to detect the artery. It's going to show artificially high. So I like the wrist one. Now, here's what you need to know about the wrist. You must keep the device at the level of your heart in order for it to be accurate. So you get yourself some pillows and you put your forearm on the pillows so that the device is at the level of your heart, which easily, I mean, for ease, you could say is at the level of your nipples, male or female. The level of your nipples, that's a reasonable estimation of where your heart is. And then you measure it. And where should you be? If you recall from the last presentation, you want to be somewhere between on the low side, especially for us vintage people. You want to be somewhere around 110 over 60 to 80. I mean, you can be as high as 140 over 80s, 145 over 85. That's a comfortable blood pressure for the average person over 45. You'll get different opinions on that, but they're specific to different populations. And when you notice that the blood pressure, the high number, is getting up 160, 170, 180, 190, 200, now it's time to go to urgent care, especially if you're experiencing any kind of chest pain. But for ones like the average person, you just sit down, calm yourself. And remember, I said sit down because your blood pressure will be different depending on what position you're in. So if you're sitting, it's going to be one way. If you're standing, you're going to get other results. And if you're lying down, the results will be different for sure. So wherever the best way to do it, the easiest way, especially as we providers will want to know when you call us how the more you can tell us, the better we're able to serve you. So you're sitting down, your arm, especially your wrist, is at the level of your nipples, and you take your blood pressure. And ideally, it's going to come out somewhere, as I said, between 110 and 145 and 60 and 85, like that. Good. So now you know you got that together. And then something called your O2 saturation. Your O2 sat, as we call it. Me and Karima would tell you that, the O2 sat. And what it is it's a device that fits over your finger. And the nurse, if you've ever been there, it's a little something that clamps onto your finger. And it reads how much the percentage of oxygen that is getting from your heart to your periphery or to your hands. And as long as it's 95 and above, you're good. The average person is going to come in there 97, 98. Some people, really athletes, people like that, 99. I've rarely seen it at 100. Where you want to get concerned is somebody who's below 95, 92, and having trouble breathing. That's call an ambulance. That's call an ambulance. Or if you're a person who has asthma, or if you're a person who has respiratory complaints and your provider has instructed you what to do when your O2 goes down, then do that. But even while you're waiting for the ambulance, use what you have, but don't rest there because you still have to determine what it was that caused your oxygen saturation. The ability of your blood, the ability of your heart or your lungs to bring enough oxygen to your arms, legs, and throughout your body. You have to determine what caused that. So that's what you do. A little simple device. Nothing that I have mentioned thus far should cost you more than $25. Nothing. Very easy to get. And a lot of these things, I've seen them. I've gotten a device of mine from Craigslist. So you can do it. And then the other basic thing, I mean, real basic thing is a heating pad. Because if you get chills, and that was my first sign that something wasn't right, was all of a sudden we're sitting there and everybody else has the air conditioning on and the fans are going. And I started getting really cold. I was sitting under the blanket, and you also get something called malaise. This is what we call it. But I got the aches, the body aches. The skin was sore. I just ached all over, and I could not figure out where that was coming from. But that's your body's early warning defense system. That's something starting. Body knows something has gotten in there that should not be there. And it's the siren call, right? Low-grade fever, and then you look at, I'll tell you something else, and this will come later on. It's a good time to bring it up now. Something you should become familiar with. You can Google it and you can print it, and you should have it in your house. You Google review of systems. Review of systems. What is review of systems? It is a series of questions that look at all the systems in your body and will help your provider or yourself narrow down the area where the problem is. So generally, it will say, generally, how do you feel? How's your energy? Are you fatigued? Do you have fatigue? Are you tired? How's your appetite? Because generally, when people are ill, according to the FITRA, they stop eating. You'll see this with animals. That's one of the clear signs that something is wrong with your dog or your cat or any other animal. When it is normal for animals to eat, it's normal for humans to eat. It is only when we're not feeling well emotionally and we're under stress that we do not eat. And isn't that a beautiful comment on Allah's fitra? Because it's 40% of the energy that we produce goes to the gut to digest our food. If you imagine you have 100 troops or 100 police fighting protesters that are trying to get in your house, how successful do you think you will be if you got to take 40 of them and divert them someplace else? You see what I'm saying? So when you're the old adage about starve a fever, that's where you want to be. That's what you want to do. So I won't go through the entire review of systems, but that one category is a nice one that gives us the providers, and you, the mother, the caretaker, the godmother, grandmother, whoever, gives you a nice little window to understand what the person's feeling. And then you'll ask the obvious questions of, well, what hurts? Yeah, where does it hurt? Did you hurt something? Did you bump it? Did you cut something? Whatever, you can get into that. I won't take the time to do that now. That's a whole lecture unto itself. And I'll be happy to do it if you want. But go online, Google review of systems printable, and print some of them and just have them. And I love the idea of going to the thrift store and getting yourself a used bag. Men folks, you can get yourself a used backpack if you want, or get something that looks masculine so you don't have to feel any kind of way, and put your stuff in there. So whenever something happens, or if you even hear an accident on the street, you can grab what we call in the business the go bag. Right? I'll show you how to stock it later. But to stay on track here, make sure you have those things where you can find them, and put some batteries, some extra batteries in there, so that you take them out after you've finished, like taking your blood pressure, unless you're going to do it every day. Take the batteries out, because if left alone, they'll leak and they'll erode your electrodes and mess up stuff for you. But that part. So there you have the first part, the tools of the trade: thermometer, blood pressure device, O2 saturation. It's called a pulse oximeter, if you want the fancy word when you go to buy it. Pulse oximeter, OXIMET, pulse oximeter, and a heating pad. I cannot tell, oh gosh, when I got that heating pad, I got into bed and I pulled the covers up. I was still shaking, I was still cold. And I put the heating pad on and I began to feel wonderful. That wasn't the end of the story, but that helped me feel better really, really quick. In the old days, they would have a basin. You've seen the pictures person would have their feet in a basin of hot water and Epsom salts. And if it was a respiratory complaint, you'd put a towel over your head and you'd breathe that in. So that brings us nicely into the next thing that you should have in your home health clinic, and that is essential oils. Essential oils, or oils, as we say down here. And what are these essential oils? Peppermint. It's right at the top of the list is peppermint. Peppermint is a warming oil. And if you inhale it, it plus eucalyptus, right? You inhale it, and if you're having a respiratory issue, it opens your sinuses. If you just want a facial, it opens your pores. That's what it does. And that plus this next piece of equipment, which is either a facial steamer. You've seen these, it's something you put your face in it and vapors come up, steam comes up, and women do that in order to do facial cleansing and clean your pores and all that. I use it medicinally, right? That's a nice way to get steam plus eucalyptus or plus peppermint up into your sinuses if you're suffering any kind of respiratory complaint. Makes a big deal. And if you're like me and you know you're not allergic to silver, you put silver in there. Now, this is very important here. First, let's talk the device. You get either a facial steamer, a diffuser, and I'm speaking about the diffusers that have the little wisp of white steam, looks like smoke, but coming out of the top. And you put water in it, and then you can add whatever you'd like to it. That's best used with the eucalyptus and the peppermint. Best of all is a nebulizer. Used to be you could not buy a nebulizer over the counter, but you can now. And they even have them where they're portable and USB chargeable, which is really a gift, because the other ones are big and kind of cumbersome and you have to plug them in. And you got to buy a set that goes along with it with tubes in the whole 9 yards. But the portable nebulizers, I've seen it on Amazon for $25 to $30. Has a little chamber, a little small chamber. And in it, you can put saline, that's water with a little pinch of salt in it. You can put, as we do, not telling you you should do it. You can. But I'm telling you what we do. You put silver in it and you nebulize it. Now, what kind of silver am I talking about? I'm talking about colloidal silver. That's a whole lecture in itself, but colloidal silver is nanoparticles of silver, pure 99.99% pure silver. And it's been around and it's been tested since the Egyptian times. Yeah. Going back, Hippocrates used silver. This is why rich people had silver utensils, right? Silver utensils, silver pots, silver goblets. Why? Because they're antibacterial. They're antibacterial. They help modulate immune responses. They're antiviral. They assist the immune system. Silver is real. Now, here's the important point, and I am not an affiliate, maybe I should be, but I'm not an affiliate for or get paid or sponsored by any particular company. I just did the research and I found that there's only 2 companies, 2 out of the 50 that were listed in the comparison that actually have true silver and have what they call high parts per million. So that's how you measure it, right? How many parts per million do they contain? don't get too into the weeds about that. Just know that the measurement is parts per million, and the higher the parts per million, the more effective it will be in your body. And there are only two, despite the hype, despite however many you will see on Amazon, there's only two. And one of them is called Purist Colloids. Purist Colloids. Recommend them highly. Been using them for probably 10 years now. Purist Colloids. And it costs probably $35 a bottle. And what's beautiful about that site, puristcolloids.com, 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 is that they educate. They've got a nice little pull-down menu that educates you about the history of all the precious metals that they provide. And one of the things that you will learn is that though you will see many people selling what's supposed to be colloidal silver, these are things that people make in their bathtubs or in their kitchen sinks or however they do it. But in order to make nanoparticles, really small particles, small enough to do you any good, you have to, hold on. There we go. Let's plug in. There we go. We are again back in business. In order for it to be effective, you have to have a certain purity, and you have to have a certain, if you don't, the ability to produce small particle size. And if you don't, you will get what's called silver ions or ionic silver. Important that you know that ionic silver will give you the negative effects that you're likely to read online about the use of colloidal silver. And they'll likely mention the story of the Blue Man. And this was a man who joined the circus, and his problem was that he had taken, by some means, for some reason, large amounts of what was supposed to be colloidal silver, and he developed a condition called argyria, A-R-G-Y-R-A, argyria. And the detractors for the use of silver medicinally will tell you that if you take silver, you'll develop argyria, and that's wrong. If you take anything other than nanosilver, you'll end up with something called silver chloride, which when it gets in the stomach, a whole process I don't need to go into here occurs. But the bottom line of it is that it doesn't do what you want it to do. It doesn't do what you're going to be taking silver for. So, example, if one of our grandchildren, hasn't happened because we're on it like that, but you get an ear infection, you can instill true colloidal silver into the ear, and the little particles are so small, they cross over there and they kill the infection. So our grandson, who's 4 years old now, has not had a single ear infection. Now, if you have an infant, one of the most common causes that children go to the pediatrician is for ear infections and also for strep throat. So what we do is our daughter has a stash that we made sure she has it. And you go to Dollar Tree and you get spray bottles. There'll be 2 or 3 of them for $1.25. And it's a very fine mist. And you don't wash the bottle. You don't want to mix water with this. You pour the silver in there. And then every time the child sniffles, you spray it in the nose. You tilt the head back and you spray it in the nose. It comes out as a very fine mist. It doesn't burn, nothing like that. And then you have the child sniff it up like that. And you can do it 3, 4, 5 times a day. It's a natural antihistamine. Now, why is it important to do it like that? Or if they're having a sore throat, you open it and you spray it just like you would Cepacol or any of these other ones. And why is that? Because you're getting the portals of entry. How do germs get in the body? Well, you inhale them, you swallow them, right? Or we have another thing here, but that's not the most common way. Most likely people get in there, the sinuses become swollen, mucus, they fill up with mucus, as in allergies, and then the mucus becomes infected. And now you've got eustachian tubes that take it from here down to the throat. Boom. Now you've got otitis media and strep throat headed off at the pass. Soon as they start the allergy season here, we start spraying the kids. And we don't use decongestant sprays. We use the colloidal silver. So get it and have it. COVID came through. None of us got it. As soon as a person starts sneezing, boom, right in here. Sore throat, boom. Person starts feeling bad, right? No obvious red marks or anything on the body. Spray the throat. Take a teaspoon every 3 to 4 hours. Very mild illness. Got it? The other one that you can get now that's less expensive and walk into Vitamin Shop and get it. I think even Walmart has it. It's called Silver Wings. Silver Wings. And again, I'll send you with my notes, I'll send you the website of those ones, but Silver Wings, don't get any other one. And they have one that's 500 parts per million. That's the only one out of the two that out of the 50 some odd that are on that list that I used for comparison. And you get that, but that comes with a dropper. And you can drop it in the nose. That's another way to get it. You can drop it in the ears. I use that when allergies started to flare for me. Cut the whole thing. Itchy ears, itchy throat, itchy nose, sneezing. Nose is stopped up 15, 20 minutes after you put the drops in there. You're breathing just fine. All right? So, heating pad, essential oils, colloidal silver, nebulizer. Got it? All right. Next thing, the human element. You have to, in your home health clinic, have ancillary personnel. Every provider has one, a nurse aide or a nurse, but some other person who can help you if you're the one who's ill. So that can be provider access. You have insurance, you can call your doc, you can get an appointment, you either have money or you have insurance, and you go to the urgent care. One of the things that's beautiful about being here in the South, or I like to call the Mid-Atlantic regions in the South, is we have urgent cares, standalone, privately run urgent cares. And if you're not like having a heart attack or, faint, had an accident, some kind of trauma, something that the average person knows is really serious, you can go to the urgent care. They're walk-in. You don't need an appointment. I used to work in one. And the average provider, if you have a wound, and we're not talking about, like Freddy Krueger got you, but, you got a cut with something like that that's what's considered minor, right? Then the child falls and has a nice little cut here above the eyebrow. They know how to repair that, and it will save you hours in the emergency room. It'll save you thousands in the emergency room. As soon as you walk in the emergency room, you're on the hook for a couple of $1,000, and that's before any provider has really seen you. So you want to save and hours to wait. So thank God, many hospitals have their own urgent care. They call it fast track ER. So when you come there and the nurse sees you, you walk in, you tell them what the problem is. They make a decision. Is this person got to see a doc? Is it a true emergency? Or is it something that just needs attention, but doesn't qualify as a life-threatening situation? So you can go to urgent care. The next way to go, which is like what we do, because we are, as entrepreneurs and people who are self-employed, 1099 folk, we don't have insurance other than major medical. So when we need a prescription for anything, we go to a site called drsays.com. drsays.com. Amazing place. I think they're in, have to be 30 out of the 50 states. And you call, you can usually get an appointment the same day. And it's virtual medicine. It's telemedicine, teledoc, telehealth. You get, and many times you can deal with the same doctor that you've been dealing with the last time. And if you join as a member, your price drops from $35 to $26 for some really minimal fee each month. I think that whatever the total is for the year. But even if you just pay as you go, it's no more than $35, $37 a visit. So this is for things that are easily diagnosed, because the average reason, the majority of the time, when a person goes to the doctor, they need a refill of something, or they have what I had, soft tissue infection, and it's just a prescription. It's nothing that they got to lay hands on, nothing where there's any ambiguity about what you should do. I used to do it, and it's for refills. It's bread and butter for the industry, but it's really annoying if you need your prescription today and you can't get in to see your doctor for, a week. Generally, they'll have the nurse do it, but you have to have seen the doctor in the previous 3 months in order for that to happen. So it gets to be complicated, unnecessarily complicated. But doctor says you can get it within 24 hours, easily within 24 hours in our case, for $26. So they ask you all the stuff that the doctor would ask you face to face. What medicines are you taking? What is it that's going on with you? What do you want the doctor to do for you? And if it fits within the list of things that's appropriate for someone to do without physically seeing you or physically laying hands on you, they'll do it. So I think my visit with him was 7 to 10 minutes, but he knows me. He knows I'm a provider, and the history that I sent him, because they'll ask you to explain whatever it is that's going on. And this is where what we call in the business, your HPI, the history of the present illness, right? That's where you tell them, this is the problem. It started X amount of days ago. It's getting better. It's getting worse. And here are the other symptoms that I'm experiencing along with it. And it just creates a nice little narrative for the doctor to get a good picture and for us to say, okay, so based upon that, sounds like you got the flu. Sounds like you got the cold. Let's treat it symptomatically. If it doesn't get better in 48 to 72 hours, now you got to go see somebody that can lay hands on you. And then the talking to you, what we do a lot of stuff in talking to you that you may not be aware of, especially if it's like this, where I can see you. I'm listening to you, but I'm looking at your face. I'm listening at your speech. Are you coherent? Are you clear-headed? Do you look miserable? Are you having trouble breathing? How does your voice sound? You'd be amazed how much we can get from that. That person says they've got vertigo. Okay, person said they got pink eye. That's real easy. Can I see your eye? You know what I mean? Simple things like that. So you do that, and then they'll call in your prescription. And if you have Walmart Plus, they will deliver your prescription to you within a couple of hours. I mean, people that put America down and you think someplace else is better, go ahead, leave. Go wherever it is you think is better than what we got here. But I'm telling you, I've been to Saudi, I've been to Italy, I've been to the Caribbean, I've been to England. I'll stay here. I'm American through and through, and my ancestors helped build this place. And we're just at the point where we can reap the fruits of our labor. How ignorant, how silly, and short-sighted would it be to leave now? This is the good part. We saw a video last night that made me smile. Oh, it made me so happy to see it. This is one of the righteously indignant Democrat people. No shade on anybody that's Democratic, but when Trump got elected, she says, I'm out of this place. I'm not going to stay here. Listen, she had a 46-acre farm, piece of land, ranch in Montana. And she was so disgusted and so convinced that America was going right down the toilet as soon as Trump got in here, that she packed up her ish and she moved to Canada. She got there, she found out Canadians don't want us moving there. They do not want us moving there, right? They want Canada for Canadians. They don't mind if you come there as a tourist. But she found out she couldn't, she got a 6-month visa, and her visa was in process of expiring. And then her mom got ill, so she went back to the US. Then she tried to go back to Canada, and they wouldn't let her in. Oh, yeah. They gave her the blues. We turned off before we found out, did they ever eventually let her in? But they didn't want to believe that she had a lease. She said, I'm going back because we found out things aren't what they want, what we thought they would be. And we're moving back to the US and all of that. And they were convinced that she, with a visa that was about to expire, that she was going to come back into Canada and let the visa expire and try to integrate herself into the Canadian population. I don't know how it ended up, but when she made the follow-up video, she was just totally undone. See, I'm coming back if she can get back, if she can get her family out of there, to come back to good old USA. I think it's just amazing. I think it's just. Next piece, you need family. You need family. I'm so grateful that I have family. And my family is close, right? We had a death in the family. You all might have heard. It was not near family and more effective. The children's grandmother passed. Wasn't my mother, wasn't Ben's mother. Let that just be. And the grandchildren, most of them are here. But one was in South Carolina. So we had to make arrangements for him to get from there to here because he couldn't get a bus out. Now, the beautiful thing is, because most of our tribe, and I love that, most of our tribe is within 45 minutes of the hive, our house being the central part, the hive. Some live 5 minutes, 10 minutes away. Others live 20 minutes away. The furthest away lives 40 minutes away. But just that fast, the word went out that South Carolina's son needed a ride. There were 3 of us who could go get him. So it turned out he got a ride here, and somebody needed to pick him up from Greyhound. He said, I'll do it. So there I was. Bus came in. I was waiting on him, right? Then to go back, it was 2 or 3 of us could take him back because it's only I say only 2.5 to 3 hours but it's much better if the closer you are, because stuff happens and stuff can happen to anybody. It tends to be more likely to happen, the strange thing, to seniors. So when my situation occurred and I wasn't feeling well, we got one of those with us. We got two that live on site with us, right? They're working people. Uh, and it's like, hey, Mom, you all right? I don't know that I didn't come out of my room at the usual time. They're knocking on the door. You all right? What do you need? Can I go get it? Right? Daughter took over all the cooking. She takes over most of the cooking now. Serves me on a tray. Right? Now I'm not bragging. Yeah, I am bragging from the sense of giving praise and thanks to Allah. You put the time in on the front end, you reap the benefits on the back end. You don't spend time with your children, you invest time in your children. Are you listening? I hope you are. I know you are. Then you have to have friends. You have to have friends. I didn't know that Ben had mentioned to some of you that I was a little under the weather. So I to all of you that asked as to my well-being, I thank you. It makes me very happy to know that prayers and thanks and duas and good energy is coming my way. I like that. Even if I'm not the direct recipient of it, like, saying it actually to me, I get it. When you send it to him, I get it. And last of all, but not least of all, you have to have community. So we have the near tribe, and then we have the associate tribes in other cities where they're doing the same thing that we're doing, right? Brother William, certainly, he's got a nicely developed tribe, and you get your communities. I was never part of the Nation of Islam, but I loved the part of the nation where if somebody wasn't heard from or seen in 3 days, people went to check on them. I have a list of people that I know are estranged from family or who are going through something, and I call them. Or I call them wellness texts. Some of them I got to do it on Instagram because that's what they want. That's what their means of communication is. But people need to know that somebody sees them. I have folks that I've called and they said, wow, that's amazing. I call or I text because they may be distant city. And I say, I was just thinking about you. Are you all right? And I said, that's amazing because I was just dealing with this particular thing. So you never know. You never know who's going through something, for whom your words, or as Brother William would say, the frequency of your good vibes may be just what's needed to help them raise the frequency of their vibrations. It may be somebody is going through it and they need you to do what my my ancestors would say, that be get the hanks off them. Took me a long time to figure out what is these snuff dipping, liquor drinking people talking about. Get the hanks off them. And I found out that when they meant hanks, they're really talking about haunts, like spirits, evil spirits that be right. They used to say, if you wake up in the morning and you've had nightmares and stuff, they say the witches have been riding you. Or my personal favorite, the boo hags. What would it? Now I know. Now I understand. And it doesn't take much for how shall I say, lower vibrations for you to inadvertently walk in, brokers I hate, to walk in on some low vibration You know it when you feel it. You don't necessarily have to uh, uh, talk to the person to know it. So there's low vibrations where the person is just beat down by life. That's one kind of low vibration. Then there are the vampire low vibration people. And sometimes, people, vampires is biting them on the neck and they're just hoping for somebody to come with the equivalent of the cross to drive them back, or the equivalent of the silver bullet to just get these people off you. So make sure that you are well stocking your home health clinic. You got the tools of the trade, your thermometer, your blood pressure device, your O2, your pulse oximeter, your heating pad, okay? Your essential oils, your peppermint eucalyptus, your colloidal silver, your nebulizer or your steamer or your diffuser, your heating pad, and perhaps if I would tell you this, I'm going to relate to you a quick fable of Anansi the spider. If you don't have it, go to the library and get it. I don't know the authors, but I know the story by heart. And there are many different adventures. So you could say, I want the adventures of Anansi the spider, or Anansi the spider goes this place, that place, many different iterations. But fundamentally, it's an African folk tale. And you have the father, and his name is Anansi Spider, a real spider, you'll see it. And he has sons, and each of them has a skill. Some of them are leaf cutters, some of them carpet, and call it whatever you will. And one day Anansi goes off into the woods, gets lost, and isn't seen or heard from for a couple of days. And one of his sons said, wow, well, where is father? And they said, well, maybe he went here, maybe he went there, maybe. He says, no, we got to go look for him. And so under the advice and the prodding of one of the sons, they go out and they look for him, and they find him and they bring him back home. So naturally, human nature being what it is, everybody's looking for, okay, so what do I get now that I help bring dad back home? And one of them thought he should get it for the fact that he does this. Another one thought he should get it for the fact that he did that. And Anansi said, the one that did the most for me was the one who remembered me. Had he not remembered me, I might have died. So let us all be that one that is the son to our father, the friend to our friend, the son or daughter to our mothers. Anyone, if you can just be a fellow human, a true human, right? Go check on somebody. Send a text, write a text. And what I do for people that I can't be with, or for whatever reason it's not appropriate to communicate with, I pray for them. I belong to a little small group. It's a very small group that's related to one of my Christian friends, a doc I used to work with. And she got a group called Prayer Warriors. So our grandson recently underwent surgery. And before that, our son's lady friend, his girlfriend, her daughter had to go into the ICU. So what I do, as my grandmother would say, I put it on the prayer circuit. I put it on the prayer circuit. I called my friend who's in Virginia, and I said, I need you to pray for this child. Her name is X, and I gave the location. And I said, she's going through Y, and we need to pray. I want y'all to, I use their language because that's what activates the right frequency. Come on, Brother William, the right frequency of vibration for them. right? I said, I need you to pray that God will cover her with his mercy, cover her with his protection, so that everyone who comes in contact with her will do what is best for her under God's personal guidance. When our grandson was going in for surgery, I started seeding the waters early so that the angels would be in there. I wanted him to walk into that frequency. I'm praying for the doctors. I'm praying for the nurses. I'm praying for the clerks. I'm praying for the ones sterilizing the equipment. Every single aspect of it, I'm sending out a dua. Or as another friend, Brother William, Sister Stephanie, I like to what I call speak the word. I like to speak the word that everything is going to be all right. So I was telling my daughter, it's already all right. Got 100 people praying for you, it's all right. You got 2 people praying for you, it's all right. And I spent most of the night, not, oh, please, Allah, these go die. No, just repeating, I give thanks and praise to Allah, that Allah controls all things. Allah is the master of all outcomes, and everything that Allah intends for us is good. I give thanks for this. I claim it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I call that speaking the word. Right? And I was praying for myself. when I had this last go round with the soft tissue infection, I was praying, I was asking, and praying for me is focusing the energy on Allah's healing power. I give thanks that Allah's healing power circulates through every part of my body. I give thanks that Allah is the most powerful thing in existence. There is nothing that can withstand the healing power of Allah. There can be no resistance to the healing power of Allah. I claim this as my birthright, and I'm grateful. And I did that the whole time. And I began this journey, this sickness journey, or as I like to call it, the healing crisis. It was 2 days before I realized I really need to check in with a doc. And it was because during that time, I was seriously focused. And then I said, oh, the illness has declared itself. Now it's time to call the doc. So that's my story. That's my story, my healing journey. I'm not 100% out of the woods, but I would say the progress bar is steadily moving to the right. And I'm feeling good enough that I could come before you today, and glad enough that I could testify about the healing power, the mercy, and the compassion, the omniscience, the magnificence of our Creator, operating in a wonderful way. Stevie Wonder said, "Where is your God?" I'll tell you, my God, He lives inside of me. And I say it's taken Him so long for the rest of us to come online, because we've got so far to come. Thank you, Stevie. Thank you, Brother William, Sister Karima, Sister Nawa, all y'all. I love you dearly and sincerely. And with Allah's grace, I'll see you next week. In force, in full effect. All right. I'll take whatever questions anybody wants to pose. Go for it.
I don't have a question, but the prayers that you say also, I claim it, but now I added a new word to it, which is whatever it is, I'm accepting. I accept it. So not only claiming it, but now I'm accepting it. So whatever your will and your guidance is, I'm accepting it. So those are my new words that I have added to the prayers that you are saying, that you already know that we say, that because this is something that as a nurse you always pray, that every hand that come in contact with this patient is healing him and moving him toward health. So these are the prayers that we always say.
Amen.
But we right. But now I'm also adding the word accept.
And said like a true Southerner, because it comes out like accepted.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I like to use the word I surrender.
That's true.
And
That is true.
that's not any different. We're saying the same thing, just different words. And
Right.
in my limited understanding of the way the Allah works or operates, is the solution is always there.
Right.
There are those of us that think we know more than Allah, and we're only willing to accept the help if it comes this particular way from this particular person at this particular time. I say, Allah, I know you know way more than me. So I trust that it's just we're saying the same thing. These are just the prayers that we do. And I thank Allah for my grandmother. My grandmother was a Pentecostal. These are just one step above the snake handlers. My grandmother could pray paint off a wall. As a child, I can remember one time my grandmother going into serious prayer over a situation, and it was thundering and lightning, and she just happened to be sitting in the window when the lightning struck. I just knew, don't mess with this, not this woman here. This one here's got the power. And yeah, so we give thanks. I did not know who God was, but I knew who my grandmother was. I had no idea of the concept of Allah as a child. But my grandmother, I believed that she was the link. And if she did nothing else, she called God what I know as Allah. She knew him as Jesus. Same thing, pure spirit. She died at 108. She gets a pass. But interestingly, when I became Muslim and I went from being all fly to covering my head, my grandmother wanted to know, what is it that you're reading? What is it that you're doing that has you looking like a nun? When did you? So I sent her a Quran and she read it. I don't know how much of it she agreed with, but she read it. Yes. So thank you for that, Sister Karima. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. You had mentioned that two colloidal silver brands, Purist Colloidal and Silver Wings.
Mhm.
And I looked at my medicine kit and I found some and I found some colloidal silver 10 parts per million and 130 parts per million. This better stuff, how many parts per million does it have?
I would first want to know the company, because whatever measurement they tell you is not as important is it true nanoparticle silver, or is it what you generally get, which is not that, and which is when it gets in the body, it's going to turn into silver chloride.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't
That's
know.
a problem. That's a problem. You don't want that kind. So what I can also do, and what you can do, is you can Google a comparison of silver products, comparison of colloidal silver products. Google it. It's what I did. I'll find the link and I will include it when I send you my notes.
All right.
And that's what you want to know, because taking any parts per million of something that's going to dissociate into silver chloride is A, not useful, and B, potentially dangerous. Anybody else? Sister Baina. You have to unmute yourself, darling. Unmute yourself, Sister Baina. Okay. Anybody else? All right, then.
Bashir has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bashir.
I had a problem last night, starting about 10 o'clock last night, with cramps in my lower legs, like my close to my ankle, my feet, all night long at hour intervals, up until I guess about 5 o'clock this morning, from about 10 o'clock last night. And it was a mess. And I had to keep going up and chugging down water, trying to get rid of the cramp, and going back to bed, and then getting back up and going back to bed and getting back up. So I'm almost sure it had to do with that burger that I got from Jack in the Box. Jack played a game on me, and I went for it. Because I've been eating berries. I've been eating blackberries and blueberries and some other stuff. Dr. William Lee had recommended to be able to relax my brain, to be able to cleanse my body out while I sleep. And I broke that last night and had a burger,
Okay,
and
confessed.
I had oh my goodness, it was a mess because I haven't had those type of cramps in quite some time. But
All right.
you bring a smile to my head and to my face, just talking like something like my mom. My mom was from my birds are competing, but that's okay. My mom was from Shreveport, and she used to mention things like broke as a haint. So that's how I know about this stuff. I was born in Los Angeles, but she brought that with me. She had me at 16, so I'm still. She passed in 2010, so I'm just thinking about her and my dad now more than I ever thought about them when they were here. So, anyway.
Well, a couple of things. Remember, I'm not speaking in any way as a diagnosis or a provider. I will give some general educational information about what to do about cramps. Now, I'm speaking specifically of muscle cramps. I'm not speaking about menstrual cramps. I'm not speaking about abdominal cramps.
Yes.
I'm speaking about a cramp in your leg, a cramp in your foot, like that.
Yes.
Generally speaking, in my toolbox, I have something called magnesium oil.
Magnesium oil.
Magnesium
Oil.
oil.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, magnesium oil, but my
Oil.
people say magnesium oil.
Yeah.
And OIL.
Yeah.
And you can get this at Whole Foods or
Okay.
Vitamin Shop or whatever. But it's magnesium chloride in a solution that you can absorb through your skin.
Okay.
So when a person gets muscle cramps, it's due generally to one of two causes. And I'm speaking very generally, very broadly, right? It is due to an electrolyte imbalance, specifically magnesium, potassium, can be sodium, can be calcium.
Yes.
And so the first thing I reach for in that circumstance is the magnesium. And that works in minutes. I get it if I drink coffee. I get it if I drink sweet tea. I do it very, very, very rarely. But something about black tea, which is what they use for sweet tea, if that and brown soda, I think it's some component of those. I don't know if it's the phosphoric acid. You're drinking brown soda, you take your life in your hands anyway, but there's sometimes I just, like you did with the burger, I hear you, my brother. I hear you so loud and clear. And if I make it myself, I don't keep soda of any kind in my house. We have seltzer, not seltzer water, carbonated water, sparkling water.
Yes.
Sparkling water. And if you get that taste for sweet, you want soda, we have something called emergency with a capital C, which is vitamin C powder that's got vitamins and electrolytes in it, or what's it called? Liquid IV. Another one, Element. Again, I'm not affiliated with any of these, but these are ones that you can buy over the counter. And you get the fizzy water and you put those flavorings in it. And for where I'm coming from, they're better than soda because they're actually doing some kind of good for your body. So that's where that comes from. Now, here's another, that's what we do here. Another general advice is that you get your emergency packets, which have this. So first I told you about the magnesium oil. The second one is the emergency packets. You buy them at the store, you keep one by your bed, and you put, like this much amount of water in it. And as you drink it, hold it under your tongue. And hold it in your mouth as long as you can before you swallow it. You have to swallow it. You may get 4 or 5 swallows out of it. And because it has magnesium, because it has calcium, because it has sodium in it, it usually, in a very short period of time, will reverse the cramp. So those are 2 things that a person can do. Now, if this is a recurrent thing for anybody, now you need to look at circulatory disorders. Because fundamentally, a cramp will occur. What is a cramp? It's a muscle contraction. Muscle goes like this. It's supposed to release when you release, but it'll just go like that. And you're like, oh God, what do I do? So if you get it in your hand, and let's say your hand is contracted like this, then you just pull it the other way. It's contracted like that, you pull it the other way. If you're a person who runs, and because it's low oxygen that does that. You're not getting enough oxygen to the muscle, so it contracts.
Oh.
So if you're having repeated cramp episodes, then you need to go and have studies of the circulation in your legs. That's safe, I can tell you that. Go check out the circulation. Speak to your provider. Karima didn't tell you any other solutions. She said, speak to your provider and be especially interested in finding out, is the circulation to your legs okay? Because if not, that can speak to an underlying problem, a symptom, the cramp being the symptom of an underlying problem that's more serious and needs to be looked into.
I had to get rid of that pillow. The pillow I was laying my leg on, I got rid of that when I got a smaller pillow. Probably that was causing the not being able to have the proper circulation. It was a bigger pillow. But I have a Walmart across the street, so I'll take care of it like that. Thank you.
All right. I hope it helps. Next.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I couldn't get my phone unmuted for whatever reason. I don't know what that was all about, but thank you so much for all this useful information. I have everything in my kit except that thing for your finger. But I use colloidal silver and colloidal gold because I had a friend that had to get a transplant, and we found that colloidal silver and gold helped. But I recently went to a prompt care, and they told me I should not be using colloidal silver because the FDA had disapproved it. So I was just wondering if you heard anything about the FDA disapproving it. And I had some of my doctor friends to tell me that it was dangerous to be putting metal into my body.
Yeah. So I am not a big fan of the FDA.
Neither am I.
These are the same people that told you that the COVID vaccine was safe and effective and that you could give it to pregnant women and infants. So I listen to very little. The FDA is a cabal, and it's a cult, a revolving door of executives from, don't take my word for it, look it up, of executives from, retired executives from Big Pharma. They go work for the FDA. Check that out. I guarantee you will find it to be so. So the FDA says it's not approved like that. However, once the FDA started putting silver in catheters, indwelling catheters for people who, whether they're seniors or they've got some kind of bladder dysfunction. The occurrence of ascending bladder infections and sepsis dropped precipitously using silver in the tip of the catheter. When a person gets burned, the ointment that they use is called Silvadex, and it's silver. The child is born, they want to prevent ophthalmic, I'm not sure what it is, what the name of it is, but they put, in order to prevent gonorrhea and other kinds of things getting in the baby's eye, they used to put silver nitrate drops in the baby's eye. So silver's been around an extremely long time. And the reason that the FDA says not to use it is because the pharmaceutical companies have not found a way to patent it and to obscenely profit from it. And the evidence for this is the peptides that you see right now. The GLP-1 peptides, otherwise known as semaglutide, liraglutide, and soon to be retatrutide, right? These are peptides. They've been around for a very, very, very long time, but they're naturally occurring substances. So they haven't found a way to
monetize
and prevent, worse yet, keep other people from obtaining it until they can monopolize it and charge obscene amounts for it. So for a person who wants to use peptides, you can only get them kind of on the medical underground. And frequently they'll come and you're not sure about the purity of it because the FDA hasn't regulated it. But you're going to see probably in June that the FDA has granted under RFK, may Allah grant him a great reward for the good that he is doing, that certain peptides will be legal, will be made legal. And you'll be able to get them from what's called compounding pharmacies. And the reason that that matters is because peptides they're generally derived from the synthetic versions of normally occurring substances in the human body. And just like semaglutide, or what's now called Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever those are, you know the ones I'm talking about. And those things have been around a very long time, but it's only when you cannot patent naturally occurring substances. Right. So the game that they play, and the specific reference I'm talking about is something called retatrutide, Reta for short, but retatrutide is going to be coming out in June, I believe. And they find there's only one company who will be able to produce it. That's Eli Lilly. And those are the same people that gave you semaglutide, which is a peptide. Insulin is a peptide. So when the FDA tells you something, think about it many, many, many times. Silver has been around since Hippocrates. That's like I said, and go to Purist, P-U-R-E-S-T, colloids, C-O-L-L-O-I-D-S, and you'll see a pull down, I think for patient education, maybe the name of the menu, and it gives you the history of the use of silver.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that my one of those prompt care places, because I was so sick that I wasn't able to get to my regular primary care doctor, and they wanted to know what I had been taking. So I told them I'm taking colloidal silver because I know what it does, and I'm grateful to Allah for that. Thank you so much, Sister Karima. That was beautiful. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Now, disclaimer, I'm not telling you to take anything.
Oh, no, I use it anyway.
This is for those who may be listening.
Okay.
Quality control and training purposes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not telling you to take anything. I'm presenting what I am presenting for educational and entertainment purposes. When you speak with your provider, your physician, you should be able to discuss these things with them intelligently. Bring them, after you have gone to puristcolloids.com, bring them that information, because they specifically discuss that issue, and see what they say. The average one of them has to tell you what the FDA says and what has been approved by the medical boards, because we will lose license if we don't. That's why I'm not practicing there anymore.
Okay. Thank you so much. And may Allah continue to bless you and reward you for all your efforts.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
You're the same. Oh, one last thing. Remember that there are circumstances, as I pointed to in this presentation, where big pharma and their heavy hitting drugs are 100% appropriate. 100% appropriate. I had been taking colloidal silver by mouth for those 2 days before things reached the point when I recognized, I got to go the pharmacological route. So it's not either or, it's both and these drastic situations require drastic solutions. So when I saw how things were progressing, when you have a soft tissue infection, the nature of the way skin is created can allow for the rapid spread of germs to occur. And you cannot allow them to get too far into your system before things get real challenging. So I'm humble enough to admit, hey, I'll do it this way. At the same time that I was doing that, I was taking massive amounts of vitamin C. Why was I doing that? Because vitamin C is a very, very good boost to the immune system. And if my troops are fighting for me, I want to make sure they got all they need. I was also taking vitamin D, another one that's a tremendous boost to your immune system. So you should get a book. You should get a book, or better yet, I want you to go to dryourself.com. dryourself.com. I mentioned it before. Tremendous resource on the use of vitamins, vitamin C, colloidal silver, gold, and that is a great help. Colloidal gold is not the best thing for, each of them has their proper use. I would be more apt to use gold for anti-inflammatory. I would not take it for infection, because that's not what it's really good at. But it is really enough to where what's my man, Hippocrates, what they used to do when people had severe rheumatoid arthritis was to take a gold coin, which in those days was real gold, pure gold, and insert it under the skin for people that had severe joint pain issues. So gold is really good for that purpose. I would not use silver if I was, unless I'm using it for specific purposes, for specific illnesses. So do not be of the mindset that because something is natural and not big pharma, that you can just use it. Herbs, vitamins, minerals, all of those things have a specific use in the body. So you want to be clear about what you're doing. An example is somebody I know said, I'm taking a cleanse. And I said, well, what are you trying to cleanse? Well, it's just a cleanse, a good clean out. What do you mean clean out? What do you want to clean out and from where? And she couldn't tell me. It's just part of the narrative in the health space that you need a cleanse, you need a detox. Okay, so I know someone who was facing a health challenge, And they went to somebody who presumably knows, but in fact was selling herbs, no problem with that. And they gave them this whole package for cleaning out, for cleansing the liver, cleansing the kidneys, et cetera, et cetera. And person did it, took it, fixed the situation. However, that person was me. I was fighting a situation, what was thought to be cervical cancer at the time. And I was taking about 5 or 6 different herbs. Worked like a charm. Diet, lifestyle, stress, took care of all that. However, what wasn't known was that long-term use of certain herbs can disturb your body. And when you're doing a detox or a cleanse, I want you to think of when you're renovating your house. You should have a dumpster. You should have lots of garbage bags so that you have a way to take the debris away from the area that you're rehabbing.
Otherwise, it just floats around.
Otherwise, it's just in the air. And so what I did not know was that I didn't know it until I went to the bathroom to urinate, and my urine had turned brown. And I said, what in the Sigma is that? So I went to the doctor, and it was something called bilirubin. Now, when you have elevated levels of bilirubin, that can signal liver damage. So I had been taking these pure, high quality herbs in combination. They're all like podiarco, chlorophyll, Oño de Gato, a whole bunch of stuff. But I was not monitoring labs. Didn't monitor them when I started. It didn't monitor them throughout the process. And the result of that was this bilirubin. And then when I did go X amount of time later, not too much longer after that, I went to surgery and I hemorrhaged horribly. And how does that happen? Well, some of that is due to the nature of the surgery, but the other part of it is you have to tell your provider what herbs and supplements you're taking, because they can affect, in this particular case, some of them affect blood clotting. So you have to know what's going on. You'd have to know that some of them you should not take in combination with other drugs. I mean, it can be something as benign as grapefruit. You should not take grapefruit juice with certain antibiotics. You should not take milk when you're taking tetracycline. In that case, in one case, the milk and tetracycline, you just inactivate the tetracycline. It won't do anything for you. You won't absorb it well, and it'll bind to the calcium and kind of pass out of your body unused. But in other circumstances, it can cause other kinds of chemical reactions. So what's the take home? Tell your provider, speak with your provider, and since most providers know jack about anything other than drugs, look it up yourself. And then confirm with your provider. I'm taking this, I'm taking that. You should have a list of it in your phone so that you can show it at will. That's the way I know to do it. And when I was working, I'm semi-retired now, but when I was working, oh, how did I appreciate the patients who could tell you what they were taking and how much they were taking and how long they've been taking it. That helped me sleep a lot better at night. I see Sister Salia.
Alhamdulillah, I won't keep you. First, I want to show you. I keep silver bracelets on. It tells me when they turn dark that something's going on. And I also wanted to say to the brother that was having the leg cramps, I suffer from lactose intolerance. And if I eat pizza or a hamburger roll or something that has some sort of milk byproduct in it, I get those leg cramps. And I've learned to take from someone who told me they learned this in the military to take a dime's worth of salt and put it under your tongue. So that works for me, but I don't have high blood pressure, so that wouldn't bother me. That bothers people who have the high blood pressure. But that works for me within about a minute or two. Um, that's that. And I have one question. For the blood pressure machine, you said to put it on the upper arm.
There are ones that are made specifically for that.
Yeah, well, I have that one. But you mentioned something about it being level with your breasts. But what if you have hanging breasts? You should go put that on and
Well,
then
typically, I hear you. Well, generally speaking, even the most pendulous of the ladies are not even past your elbow. So you don't have to be as careful about all of that with the
Okay.
one that's the goes in your upper arm.
Yeah.
If you just again use it so that it's at the level of your I would say where you wear your bra. Let's keep life simple. The level
Okay.
where your nipples are when you're wearing your bra.
So put the bra on. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, but you'll know it. You know, you could if you take your arm, right? And here's your elbow, right? Right in
Yeah.
this crook here. And you just go 3 fingers up and put the thing on. You're gonna be fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's
Very
all I
good.
needed. Shukran.
Yeah, just make sure you have a large size cuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get a higher reading than normal.
Okay.
And then people will go on the presumption you got high blood pressure, and there you go.
Thank you so much. May Allah continue to bless you, your family. Thank you for all of this useful information. Shukran.
I tell you, fair exchange is no thievery. I'm getting as much out of it as I'm giving.
Alhamdulillah.
All right, so I got to go make Instructor Bilal's dinner. I'll see you all next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum
Thank you.
salam.
And thank you for such a great presentation and all of the useful knowledge that Instructor Karima shares with us. We just got to take this and apply it, because I think that's the theme. That'll be the theme for the next few strong sevens. Taking the information and applying it. So that's the key. I learned something new about the silver, so I'll see how that plays out. And you don't want to overdose on things, even if it's natural, because I'm doing enough right now, but I'll take that into consideration. So without further ado, we're going to pass the talking stick over to Instructor Benjamin Bilal, and he is going to share with us the meaning of star.
Thank you so much. And I have to give it up for what Karima just delivered to this audience. It was almost singular and unique in terms of its information and its presentation. And I don't have to tell you all that it needs to be valued probably more heavily than what your actual physician or doctor or provider would give you, or at least alongside it, because the information was pertinent, it was clear, and it was definitely, as someone said, useful information, which is a wonderful thing in this day and time, where very little of the information that comes across the airwaves and radio waves and any other kind of waves is not really useful in the best sense of that word. You know, we're just kind of taking information as it comes and throwing it up against the wall and seeing if it sticks. And when it doesn't stick, it could be a sticky situation. So we're thankful again to Karima Medina Bilal for today's presentation. It's one that I may very well put on the YouTube channel, because I want as many people as possible to benefit from her expertise and her clear delivery. So we're thankful to her for that. So I'm going to begin my presentation momentarily. And we're going to be speaking on the subject today that involves the star. There's actually a surah in the Quran that's called AN-NAJM, which means the star. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that once I begin my presentation and once I put up my notes, so stand by. Very good. Someone mentioned not too long ago, I don't remember who mentioned it, but I do remember Karima's response. I think it was Bashir who mentioned submitting. You know, that's a big word within the field of al-Islam and within the lexicon of Muslims. In fact, they've made it a primary word when they say that Islam means to submit, or it represents submission. And she said, I like to say surrender. So what I'm saying to you is something that I have said to this audience before, but I haven't said it often enough for you to probably commit it to memory. But you need to, that al-Islam does not involve submission. Al-Islam involves surrendering. And you might see it as a minute difference, but in the galactic scope of things, it's not. To submit suggests that there's some force that's causing you to do that or making you to do that when you say submit. But when you surrender, it's generally a peaceful operation. If I say you need to surrender your ID at the gate when you get to the airport, there's nobody hitting you over the head to make that happen. There's nobody putting your arm behind your back and forcing you to do what it is they're asking you to do. And if you're going to look at it on the level of al-fitra, and then the fitra has a method of surrendering that is generally very, very peaceful and very, very easy. And you might not even notice it's happening unless you're actually there witnessing it or looking at it. And this surrendering is like the surrendering of the seasons. That's the example that I like to use. The surrendering of the seasons. Each season of the four basic seasons comes in and goes out in a way which allows the previous season to surrender to the oncoming season. It doesn't kick and fuss and fight, as different as the seasons may be. No one season is holding the other one hostage and forcing it to move on or get the beat down if they don't. The seasons are actually surrendering, and I'll give you another great example, and that's the example of the sun coming up, where the night is surrendering to the day. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not violent. All you know is that 10 minutes ago, your eyes were half closed at least, and you looked up at the sky and you saw it wasn't fully bright outside. 10, 15 minutes later, you open your eyes and there's a rising light in the sky, right? So the night surrendered very peacefully to the day. That's surrendering. It's not submitting, it's surrendering. So I just wanted you to put that in your archives for explaining the difference in Islam, as they call it, between surrendering and submitting to Allah. Allah doesn't force anyone to submit, especially when you're thinking that it's a force that has to be enacted in order for you to do it. No, that's not correct. Allah says, La ikraha fid din. Let there be no compelling, no force, no against your will, but I have to do this because you're bigger than me. No, that's a bully's strategy for getting you to do what he wants. He wants you to submit to his power, the bully, or the wicked or wrongful acting police department or parts of the police department. They want you to do what they want you to do because they consider themselves to be an authority over you. And you have nothing to say about it. Put your hands up, walk this way, lay down on the ground that way. I'm not saying this is the typical police department that does this. No, no, no offense to the many wonderful police departments that I have worked with in my short life and security departments that I have worked for. So I have nothing against it in that sense. But what I'm trying to show you is the difference, the clear difference between one who submits and one who surrenders. So we're here on this fourth day. No, we're here on this 26th day of the fourth month in the year 2026. That's correct. I am, as you know, your international instructor, Benjamin Bila. We're not going to keep you that long today. We've had a full day already. If I were to just sign off and say good evening, I think we still got enough for us to function functionally with the information that has been given to us, especially that information that is detailing for us the necessary things that we should do to keep ourselves in good health. So thank you both to Karima as well as to William, who also gave a nicely put together presentation. And what I want, I'm not sure if not Nawa mentioned it, but what I really want from this class from this point forward is for you guys to really think about investing your time into how to do a 15-minute at least presentation. Okay, you've heard from me. I've been doing this. You know how long I've been doing this. I've been doing this since man, what? I don't even remember. The 90s at least. All right. So I'm very familiar with presentations, how to present and the amount of time it takes to present. And I've presented lectures for up to 6 and 7 hours straight. I've presented lectures that have been 2 or 3 parts long and sometimes 2 or 3 days long. You might leave them in the days because I like to talk. And before that, I was a high school teacher in New York City under the Board of Education. And they knew that I loved to teach so much that they gave me 2 periods straight to teach my students. And then they came and allowed me to go 2 or 3 hours overtime. And what started out as a 1 p.m. in the afternoon class ended up being a class that ended somewhere between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock that evening. And no one complained, not even the janitors. All right. So I love to do that, but I don't love that for people who are not on the level of really being able to digest that and use it in their practical lives. And that's where we are right now. So I want people who can take this information, bits and pieces of it, and construct that information in a way where people can actually practically benefit from it. That's the reason why I'm now giving Karima more time, because health is as practical as it can get. The things that you learn on the levels that I'm teaching them, the metaphysical level, they're only good as long as you can connect it to the physical levels. Because the pattern for it, and you know the word fitra means pattern, but the pattern for it is built into the fitra, the physical patterns that you see. If you can't connect them to the patterns, then even the metaphysical information is useless. So once you hear what it is we have to say, then you're to go back to the fitra, back to the original pattern, back to Mother Nature, and look at her design, because that's where the wisdom is. As we begin, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the first question is, what is a star symbolic of? The word Najm is linguistically referred to as both a star as well as a plant. A star as well as a plant. And we will tell you why shortly. The word Najm goes deeper than just describing a lifeless physical object in the sky. Within any book, the meaning of a word has to be judged within the context of its message. The theme of the entire Quran is the nafs, what has been loosely translated as the soul. It means much more than that, but that's the major translation that is given to it by our English translators. The theme of the entire Quran, you might think to say Allah is the theme of the Quran. No. The major theme running from cover to cover in the Quran is the human nafs, N-A-F-S, which again is translated as soul. They say that the word Quran itself means that which is to be read. Do you think that's the major theme of Allah? That Allah is applying to himself that which is to be read? Really? You're going to read Allah? We talk about reading someone his rights, right? No, that's not the meaning for what Allah is doing in the Quran. Allah is the revealer of that which is to be read. So that is why the terms within the Quran, on the most part, are related to activities taking place within the human soul or personality. And I'll even say this, although a few people, not so much amongst these learners that I have in front of me, but in the Muslim population, generally speaking, I will say that many parts of the Quran that you think are talking about Allah, the source creator, is actually talking about the human creator, and the human possibilities for creating things. Do you know that there's even a part of the human makeup that neither sleeps nor slumbers? That's in the Quran pertaining to Allah, but it is also in your science book pertaining to you, the human, and it's called your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind, for as long as it is occupying that body, it neither sleeps nor even when you're asleep, it's not sleeping. There's no sleepy time, T, for the subconscious mind. For the conscious mind, absolutely. For the subconscious mind, there's no sleep, nor does it fall off because it's tired. Nor does it put its feet up and lean back and rest. That's not the nature of the subconscious mind. I want you to sip from this drink very casually right now. Just sip the information that I'm pouring forth. The personality is an overriding aspect of human psychology. It is not the only aspect. However, it is the most prominent and consequential aspect within psychology, which means the study of the psyche or the soul. This study within the field of psychology is known as nafsiyat, if you're going to study it further than what I'm giving you. Nafsiyat, Nafsiyat, which is the study of the nafs or the soul. This is the main subject of our Tuesday evening class. It is not too late to join, just in case you were wondering. We're off and running. It's a wonderful journey every Tuesday evening, studying psychology. Now, the Arabic word najm is from the trilateral or triliteral, you can pronounce it either way, root word nun, jim, mim. We need to go beyond its linguistic surface and investigate its fitra-based essence or origin. In doing so, we can then identify its behavioral nature for its true meanings. And believe it or not, for every one of the words in the Quran, and in fact, we can even reduce it further than that by saying that for every letter that Allah uses in the Quran, there is a behavioral nature. I'll leave it at that. Star is simply a cursory level, meaning a beginning level meaning for Najm. But within the context of the Quran, Najm is not merely a physical object shining in the sky. It is a reference to something that is intended to shine within our own consciousness. This is its core linguistic meaning. Something that is intended to shine within our own consciousness. So it's automatically pointing you to what is within you. And this is what the majority of the Quran is attempting to do, point you to what is within you. The word in the Quran is fi. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So where is this excellent stature? Where is this excellent disposition? It is fi, in you. Your consciousness begins with your awareness. These two words are normally used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. There are some very serious differences between what awareness is and what consciousness grows to be. Awareness is the fundamental level of what happens first in the life of any biology. Insect, plant, animal, human, doesn't matter what the life form. All life forms are fundamentally aware. So your consciousness itself begins with your awareness. And awareness is a fundamental acknowledgement of things around you, but minus judgment. Now, what does the instructor mean by that? It means that there are things that are aware that Allah created around us, but they're not judging what's around them. They don't say that, oh, that's bad over there. See that with that guy over there, that thing, that amoeba or that germ, that virus or that race of. They're aware that these things are here, but they're not judging them, particularly on the moral level, to say good, bad. Well, if they were bad, how come Allah didn't just leave them out of the scheme? Why would he put them in the scheme if they weren't going to do some good? We are not a deen that has been reduced to what is called among some religions dualism. Yeah, there are religions that have dualism as their main feature, meaning the whole universe is divided into good, bad, clean, dirty, righteous, evil. No, we are not a dualistic deen. We are a deen of wahid, ahad. Fundamental oneness is regulating the entire universes, that the entire universe or universes, whichever way you say it, as we know them. As awareness evolves into consciousness after physical delivery of the infant, now I'm telling you something very important right now. Awareness, fundamental awareness, which all of us have as we are developing in the fetus of our mothers. We have awareness. That's what makes unaliving, as they like to say today, of the child in the womb a terrible crime. For what reason was I killed is a question that is asked in the Quran pertaining to infants, especially. They are aware, but they can't judge. They can't say the doctor performing this operation on me is a bad guy. They can't do that. He's a good guy. He pulled me through safely. They can't do that. They have no sense of discretion while in the awareness stage or stages of their development. Now, as awareness evolves, as mentioned, into consciousness after physical delivery of the infant, meaning once you come down the chute, 9th month, 10th month, usually, and you open your eyes, your five senses, to the magnificence of this outer world that you didn't even know existed while you were wrapped tight in your mother's belly. You didn't know anything about what's out here. You had heard a few sounds, maybe coming through the television, the music, Yeah, you heard it. You didn't know what that was. You couldn't judge it. But as soon as you're delivered into a world of five sense activation. Your five senses come online, they come alive, and they begin to evoke a certain level of stimulation within you. Prior to that, the awareness was mostly for things outside of you. Afterwards, the awareness is for things outside of you. Yes, the noises outside of you. Yes, the hugs and the kisses and the feeding that's taking place outside of you. But for everything that's happening outside of you, there's a corresponding internal activation or movement or growth that is taking place along with it. So it then becomes a recognition of that which is within you also. First, awareness. These are going to be tests on your homework. Lessons that are coming soon. I need to talk to Nawan William first. But we're going to be having homework sessions based on the information that the instructor has been giving you this particular semester, especially. And before that, because we want to make sure that this information is in you. Fee. Okay? Fee, cat. Now, the ability to distinguish one feeling or a sensation, we call it, from another and crave the better feeling is what we are calling consciousness. That ability to say, this feels nice. This is comfortable. Whoever this is that's comforting me in my little stressed self body, newborn body, I'm stressed. I don't know what this is. This is scaring me. The one that's comforting me is providing contrast. And the contrast is based on the sensation. It's not based on anything you know because you don't know anything. You haven't learned anything yet. So it can only be based on what you are sensing. And then you sense this thing and you measure it or weigh it against that thing. And your cravings, meaning your desire, your deepest set desires, go for wanting the thing that felt the best. That was most easy. Allah says He created you for ease. But that's mainly why you're going through the difficulty sometimes, because with the difficulty comes ease. Words of the Quran. And just as a process note, this word crave, we've discussed this before, but it is consonantally connected to the word alifa, in case you didn't know. Some of you knew. Most of you did not. But let me show it to you, and I'm showing you this for a reason, which I'll explain. The C sound is really the K sound in many cases in the English language, right? We say circus. That second C is a K sound. Circus. The first C is an S sound. So C can sound like either S or K. In this case, it sounds like K. Ha. Rave. The R interchanges with only one other letter in the language, and that's the L sound. So this could be C-R, or it can be C-L, or in our case, K-L. That C also interchanges with other Arabic letters like Fa. So it can be Ka, or it can be Fa. It's from the same place in the throat, which makes them interchangeable in linguistics. So the CR here in crave is also the KHL sound in Kha, L, because this L, once again, interchanges with this R in words. And then, of course, we have the V, which interchanges with the F sound. This is linguistically true all around the world, not just in Arabic, not just in English, not just in the instructor's mind. No, this is linguistic fact. No matter where you find language, these letters I'm pointing out to you are universally interchangeable. That's what makes Nunetics the phenomenon that it is, because it's highlighting for you really what could be amount to what could amount to a universal language of expression. You're calling it Arabic and English and Spanish and German, but the Fitra just says they're interchangeable because it's your human mouth that Allah created that's making these changes. And the H is insignificant. It's just a suffix. It's not a part of the root letter consonants. In this case, it's just the ha, la, fa. In the case of crave, it's the ha, ra, va sounds. Now, I'm saying that for these reasons, that if the letters are interchangeable, it means there's going to be some connection in the logic of what these words are trying to express to us. And this is one of the foolproof ways, pardon me, of understanding whether a language that has been translating the Quran is really true to its essence. Because if you don't see any connections between the words that have consonantal connections, then somebody's trying to pull a fast one on you in terms of how they're translating that meaning. So if a Khalifa came to be some ruler or whatever in some land somewhere far, far away from here, and he's the Khalifa, and it doesn't match up with anything that the Fitra, which is what these letters are, they're Fitra-based meanings, what the Fitra is trying to explain to you about this word or this letter, oh man, then you're going to be in trouble just accepting their meanings for things. This is what has put the entire Muslim world on edge and kept us on the edge of the mount of the cliff, actually. Another word that interchanges with crave, isn't it? Cliff. You know, when you get on, when somebody's got you on the cliff, they're about to push you off, man. Your trepidation, your reluctance to go forward begins to increase exponentially. That's how it is when you crave things, because craving is a part of the innate desire for something. The desire can be good or bad or positive or negative or whatever you call it. You know, there are people who skydive and they crave jumping out of a plane, or they crave, climbing a mountain. You and I necessarily would not crave doing that, but that's their craving. That's their calling. That's their desire. And a Khalifa is serving the same purpose. So go back and read in the Quran what Allah is saying pertaining to this word, Khalifa. They call it one who leads from the rear, one who leads from behind, one who brings up the rear on a thing or something. Yeah, because he desires to be in the front. That's the only reason to bring up the rear. His desire is to be in the front. I'll leave that right there. This only happens once a separation occurs. this craving I'm talking about. Was the baby hungry or thirsty while in its mother's womb? Not at all, as far as we can discern. Why? Because it was being fed 24/7 in the womb. So that appetite, that desire was being assuaged, as they call it. It was already being satisfied. There was no timetable on how long in this environment you'd be able to take in that fluid and satiate yourself. Even when the mother refuses to eat, the baby still eats or drinks. It's not dependent, not even on her, for satiating its appetite. Isn't that beautiful? And we say, Alhamdulillah for that. But once the infant is separated from the mother's body, then the cravings begin. It begins with the separation. It begins with the ability to distinguish the mother from the child. I hope you're getting this. This is a powerful lesson today. You have to be able to first distinguish between the mother and the child. A lot of children these days don't understand the difference. And some of them think they're the mother. Not to mention the father, who is very often missing in many of our neighborhoods. So we are all fitra famished. We are all fitra confused because we're not following the natural and naturally created methodology that the creator or the source creator has actually installed into us as operating systems, to use computer language. He has installed the fitra, the natural way that the patterns he created operate. Out there, yes, but more importantly, in here, in these very cells that occupy you as a body. He installed his fitra. And if you go against that installation, you suffer the fate of anything that operates based on an installation, including your computer. Put in some other installments or some other systems or some other way, you'll end up with all kinds of viruses, they call them, right? That will take your computer off and away from the original intent created by the maker, the creator of that computer, IBM, whoever it is. That's not why and how they created your computer to operate. So again, this only happens once a separation occurs. Then there is a desire. The word consciousness means with choice. Con means with, chis means choice or choosing. This happens with choosing. And in order to choose, you have to have a separation of this from that so that you can evaluate both. And in that evaluation is the decision of whether this is better for you or not as good for you, or maybe even bad for you. But you have to have at least two choices in order to make that distinction. So the words distinction, separation, and any word that suggests the same process of splitting and separating is what we're talking about. Now, we have several lights that appear in our own higher consciousness. There is most notably the sun, the moon, and the stars. Whenever the Quran mentions anything in the sky, it is a reference to our higher consciousness, not just to consciousness, but to our higher consciousness. The world that we've been taught about, that we presently live in, has been given to us in two, we'll call them dimensions right now. and that would be the sky and the earth. The sky is called as-sama in the Quran, or the samawat in plural, the skies or the heavens, they're called. And there's also al-ard. All of you should have heard these words by now, but al-ard means the earth. And the earth is symbolic of your lower consciousness. That's where the lower registrations of frequencies operate. The earth is wanting and craving things because there are these life forms occupying the earth that need water, food, shelter, fun, work. And all of these activities are part and parcel of its lower consciousness. It's still making choices, but it's making them on the realm or in the realm of its lower registry of frequencies. So, AN-NAJM in this regard is a light that is shining not in our lower consciousness, it is shining in our higher consciousness. AN-NAJM. The root letters carry the underlying sense of Nun, that which appears by emerging gradually. And some might say, I thought Nun meant seed. Yeah, now it's time for you to start pondering on what a seed is and what a seed does. When you plant the seed in the ground and you give it all of its necessities, water, sunlight, and so forth, then what happens to the seed? It begins to appear. At first, there's no clue. Like you don't even hardly remember where you planted it unless you got some markers or the soil is darker than the rest of the soil. You might not even remember where you put it. But when it begins to emerge, and that emergence is not overnight, or when you see the first sign of an emergence, it doesn't just jump out at you. Ah, here I am. Come and take me. It doesn't do that. It is still a gradual unfolding of its presence among you. This word noon is also speaking to becoming a bright indicator or becoming visible. That's what we mean by bright, something that hits your conscious mind, that catches your attention. Becoming visible after being hidden is what we're referring to, and it is something that rises incrementally in stages. So a lot of things do that. Your newborn baby will do that or has done that. The newborn, it rises in stages, doesn't it? It gets bigger and bigger and big. You almost have to be away from it to know how fast it's actually growing. Or you got to be around somebody who was with you 2 weeks ago and they come back and they say, this is the baby that was born 2 weeks ago. How big is she getting? Wow, what are you feeding this child, right? That's noon. The seed, that's what seeds do. If you've ever grown a plant on your windowsill or in the garden, you know this is what seeds do. You see it one day and it's like, will this plant or this garden ever grow? You go away for a few days, the rains come, the sunlight comes, the air saturates the field, and you come back and you are totally surprised at how much growth has taken place for that plant bed. The letter G is speaking to that which travels for purposes of sustainability. It's any life form that travels to a water source, meaning a source that is going, that can't be a Kool-Aid source. For you people who are focusing on health, can't be a soda source. It has to be for some purpose of some natural liquid that is created by Allah to sustain the life of that object. For the human, that's either water, milk, or blood. You're traveling for any one of those three, you're good to go as far as the fitra is concerned. Travel for any fabricated element or source or resource. You ain't gonna make it that far. Then we have meme, which is the water source itself, or the source of sustainability, whatever it might be. These are physical projections of what elements are necessary to complete the picture of what a najm is, that we call a star. So Najm is not just a star, but something that emerges into visibility out of concealment. From this same root, we get related meanings that reinforce this concept. From those same root letters, we get the word nujum, which means stars, plural, or things that appear scattered in the sky. Now, remember, when we say sky, we're talking about the higher consciousness, your higher, not the thing that is preoccupied with your mundane life, with how much money you're going to have on your paycheck this week, how much food you're going to be able to purchase if your paycheck is good. Not the lower consciousness. You're conscious of these things, but those are lower level objects that we need to concentrate on. But they're not the consciousness that we're discussing when we talk about the stars or the nujum. We're talking about that which appears in the higher consciousness. Now, things are not always appearing in your higher consciousness. That's just not how human life was constructed. It can, but you'd have to train your brain to do that. You'd have to really discipline your mind and your mental activity for you to have stars consistently. I know some of you are coming into wisdom right now. I can feel it because of your thoughts. There's the word tanjim, which is the gradual revelation distributed in stages. Tanjim. They say our prophet received revelation over a period of 23 years. Well, that gradual introduction of revelation to his mind, to his soul, actually, that he then distributed to his companions and to other people and even his enemies. That's called Tanjim. Does the star wait until only good people are outside to shine? No. So it's a gradual revelation that is distributed in stages to whomsoever can benefit from its light. There's the word najma, which means to appear, to rise, or to come forth. And this is why this same root, nun, jim, meme, is used for things that sprout from the earth, al-ard, which, as I said, is the lower consciousness. So there are things that are coming to bear in the higher consciousness that have their roots in the lower consciousness. Nobody came here and started speaking metaphysics as an infant. They first had to learn something about the physics and then make the connection between earth and sky. These are things that sprout from the earth, yes, and do so without a trunk. You don't see trunks attached to plants until they become trees. Ideas or events that unfold stage by stage, but with seemingly no planning. I want you to really exercise your mental capacity right now in terms of what you focus your mind on as I'm speaking. There are things that have always been around you. These are not new things that Allah is creating. And so, have you ever seen this before? No. This is the world of created matter as we have already experienced them in the known world, as we call it. And there are things, there are events, and there are ideas that unfold step by step. But as I said, with seemingly no planning, like how you learn to walk and talk. Yeah, somebody taught you how to talk, but not you know good and well that you have said as a parent, yeah, he's talking now, but child, I don't know where he get all them words from. I didn't teach him all of that. And he hasn't been anywhere. He hasn't been outside really listening to people in the park all of the time or other relatives. People generally don't let a whole lot of people around their babies when they're born. But once that child, 1.5, 2 years old, it starts to chatter, you're wondering, where did he learn? I don't even know that word. How is he using that word? But it unfolds. The brain has a way of capturing concepts and allowing them to unfold and manifest themselves, but it does it with seemingly no planning involved. You're not quite sure when or what day that child is going to take his or her first step. You don't know because you can't plan it. Just like you can't plant how fast that seed is going to grow into a plant. It's growing actually into a plan. And you are not the creator of the plan in the same way that you are not the creator of the plant, or you are not the creator of the planet. You get it? In the Quran, Najm can imply a guiding light, a revelation which appears in stages, an inner illumination which emerges gradually in consciousness. Inner illumination. In some instances, we call that illumination intuition, which is also what the Najm indicates. In this sense, Najm also indicates a point of light that emerges from the unseen perception in the subconscious mind mostly, even things that are taking place in your unconscious mind. And it is used for guiding. There are things, there's an illumination that takes place in you. Most of you could probably recount the times when some idea, you don't know where it came from, it just appeared in your mind. And you decided to take that way that the illumination was pointing to. Nobody taught it to you necessarily, but it seemed so right when it dawned on your mind, in your mind as a plant growing, needing nutrition and sustenance. I'm going to follow that way and see where it leads. Unseen perception is what we're talking about. And it is used for guiding, like the stars are used for guiding one's way. The stars also illuminate and reveal. The metaphysical meaning is related to our inner understanding. There's the outer understanding, which we have words in English for. And then there is this very important idea of inner understanding, which represents a sudden appearance of truth within the self, within the nafs. You're just reading your Quran, or you're just studying nature, or you're looking at the behaviors of the people around you, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, your friends. And all of a sudden, these ideas start coming to you. Some of them you would consider to be good ideas, righteous ideas. Some of them you would consider to be not worth entertaining twice. But they kind of pop. They kind of sparkle. They come out of nowhere. And you, oh man, I don't even know if I should be thinking like that about my uncle. But many people refer to it as intuition because sometimes there's a negative vibe that comes to you about that person. You haven't seen them do anything bad yet. But, sometimes the aura presents a certain possibility about that person. And you go on later to find out what he done. And it ain't very nice. Sometimes he got to get locked up because of what he thought you weren't aware of that he was doing. But you were aware, but it was on the Najm level. Yeah, just a spark of inner understanding. It is a light that is not constant like the sun, but appears sporadically like insights. When you get insights into something, that's not a steady stream of light like the sun has light beams. That's not what the stars do. They're not beams of light that are consistent, that you can look out and see it and come out an hour later and then you still see it. It might be in a little different position, but it's light still. You can still travel by it. You can still get warm by it. If it's the right type of year or time of year, you can become warmed by the sun. It's not sporadic. You know where it is. Guidance that comes in fragments, not in totality. Sunlight comes in totality. Once the sun is up in here, it is the king of the sky, so to speak. It's regal. It's ready to tell stuff where to go, what to do, and what time to get there, right? The sun is doing that. You need to get there before dark because the place I'm sending you to is dark. You don't want to travel at night where I'm sending you. So you're regulating your time. It's a regulator. That's why we have the word regal related to regulate or being regular. Because we know regularly at 3 o'clock in the afternoon it's going to be here. I can depend on that. Like people depend on the king for sustenance. Regal. Najm represents the small flickers of truth which emerges within the darkness of the human soul. For those of you who think the soul is all light, no. Everything that Allah created, He created it first as neutral. You can get the good out of it if you follow a certain protocol that has been designed for that created thing. You can get the negative out of it if you, in most cases, just refuse to use what needs to be used for its good outcome. So the negative side is not always because you're doing something bad with it. The negative side is because you're not using its true possibilities. You think evil people are here because they're trained to do bad things necessarily? No, it's because they're being trained against doing what you were put here to do, your possibilities. And like anything that is starved as a life force, it begins to wane. And in the waning process, it begins to produce things that work against the good life of that object as Allah created it. Allah tells us in the Quran that He created everything with what's called khair in its possibilities. Khair. Everything is khair. And He only accepts, Allah says, He only accepts that which is khair, and they translate that as beneficial or good. So there's nothing created negative in its possibilities. But when we don't exercise the steps necessary to bring out the fullness of its great possibilities, it begins to wane on the vine, like the fig tree in the Bible, right? لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Certainly, we have created the human being in the most excellent of possibilities. The way it was designed to grow. See, so you're designed for good. Mr. Big Stuff thinks you so bad. You weren't designed to be bad. You were designed to display the most excellent behaviors and mentality. Oh my goodness, the human being is such a wonderful creature, but we have not been feeding the part of ourselves that will eventually bring out the excellence that you even see in the baby. It's just that he can't do nothing yet. But his kindness, you see how children love to help, especially the mother. We've seen 2 and 3-year-olds defend the mother against a negative acting father, a bad boy father in the house, a drunk father in the house. We've seen a little baby step in the way of both of them to pull her away from him or to pull him off of her. The khair is built in, is what I'm saying. So that's the darkness of the soul. Dark doesn't mean evil. Remember that in the Quran, dark does not necessarily mean evil. It means unenlightened or unilluminated, if there's such a word. These darknesses begin to appear at the lowest levels of the soul's possibilities. These levels are connected to materiality, food, clothing, shelter, etc. You know, those things we discuss when we talk about the 7 levels of the chakra system. At the bottom, there's survival, which takes a whole lot of material things in order to keep that object sustained, or that life force or life form sustained. And the second level is the preservation of the fleshly appetites, the appetites that we have for sex, for pleasure principles, essentially. And that includes family life. Again, these are not bad things. These are necessary things, but we're not supposed to stay stuck on or in these levels of expression. We're supposed to take the whole package, all seven heavens, into paradise. By contrast, the sun, which is called Ash-Shams in the Quran, it represents a constant, overwhelming illumination, which is usually brought about by some social figures we become introduced to. Many people in the physical and social sciences introduce these lights. So, who are we talking about? Even your man Albert Einstein and your man whoever, whatever other scientists you can think of, or philosophers, or psychologists, people who study neurology, these people that we deal with on a daily basis, and we read about them in the textbooks and the television programs we see them on. We become familiar with them because they're in our social environment. They are social enigmas in many cases. They're not usual people. They are sparks. They don't last but so long. Most people in psychology are not talking about Sigmund Freud right now as the premier thinker in psychology. He wasn't even a psychologist, my goodness. But they saw him as a bright, shining star in his day. These people in entertainment, they're giving us physical pleasure. We're laughing and dancing and swaying and doing the double bump and all of that, and the hoochie coochie and the twist, and we're twisting the night away with these people because they're appealing to that first and second chakra. A lot of people don't know that the dance called the twist itself is a play on a social concept that the social manipulators were planning for. Most of the dances that took place in the time the twist was being made popular, they were dances that had to be performed with a second person or with a partner. Most of the dances that were done in the arenas of what they call society, people of the upper crest or class of people, they were dances that people would do holding on to the partner. And it was mostly when the entertainer called Chubby Checker introduced what they call the twist. And he's not the first one to do it by himself, but it was a dance that became extremely popular because you couldn't do the twist connected literally to another person. The waltz, you had to be connected to another person. This dance, that dance, the other thing, you had to be connected, holding the person's hand at least, or their back, or their arm, or something like that. And then you go ahead and do the dance because they were playing on the physics of DNA and its possibilities. And what they were finding out at the time through their incredible physicists and chemists about DNA and its interlocking ability to spiral and to intertwine and interlock. You know what a DNA spiral looks like, to interlock with each other. These are the two spirals that produce life. So the twist was invented to show you what the next step in the scheme of the social manipulators was. That was to unlock that which was naturally intended to lock. Today, we simply see them as male and female. Haven't they been unlocked on the most part? Through the introduction of same sex, this, that, and the third, marriage and boyfriend, girlfriend. And now they've gone even further to begin creating cadre of people who are just getting their sex organs chopped off or artificially put on. That's what we mean by the twist. Manipulation of the genetics. And the people who we place on these edifices at your local concerts and that kind of thing. The latest of whom is Michael Jackson. You know, we place him on this edifice. We call them stars. Some of them we refer to as superstars, but they're not meant to last forever. That's why they intentionally, in many cases, bring them down before they die, or at least attempt to bring them down before they die, because they are intended to be mere sparks. It's social media that makes them gods, so to speak. It's not their natural presentation that elevates them to that level. It's social media that spreads the word about them, just in the same way that stars rise and spread, but eventually dissipate and disappear with the coming of the sun. The NAJM indicates subtle, low intensity, scattered, gradually emerging light, which brings about a measured knowing. I'm talking about the mind now, I'm talking about the intuition and the intellect. So this particular level of light that we're calling the NAJM, it's subtle. You got to stare at it to even see what formation it is. Is that the Big Dipper, or is that the Small Dipper, or is that the star Sirius? You got to look at it for a little while to figure out what its proximity is, what its positioning is. And it's the same thing for determining the light that exists in individuals who are being made prominent, but they're prominent as sparks in the dark. They make their contribution and they move on. Their knowing is measured. It's calculated from here to here. These are represented in our moments of realization, but they do not represent permanent clarity. What Sigmund Freud did eventually was found out to be a fraud, because he was following a plan and a program that was intentionally designed to bring down that level of scholasticism. Many of these people, you don't realize, they actually change their own trajectories. As we're talking about stars, they change their own trajectory before they die. But the changes are not highlighted in the history books. Where they wanted them to be positioned is the thing that becomes tattooed across the lines of history. The whole thing about man being from ape, the human being being created from apes. Do you know that Darwin changed that before he died? He said, no, this can't be true, the way I was presenting it. What happens is that they give you a talking point, you study it, and then you get gung-ho because people start to agree, and it's in all of the books now, it's in the history, it's in all of the colleges and universities. You can't just come out and say I was wrong. Same thing happened with Elijah Muhammad. For 40-something years, he was saying that this is the way it is. It was the black man and the white man, and the white man is the devil, and the this and the that and the third. And he found out that this wasn't all the way true, the way he was presenting it. He was following a star called Mr. Farad Muhammad, W.D. Farad, who was just a spark. He just came and he left like a spark. But he found out that that's not, boy, but he said to himself, he must have been on the fitro. He said, it's not going to make sense for me to try to change it. He said, because they've been believing that so hard that if I said anything different now that I know a little better, they'll say I was lying all the time. That was Elijah Muhammad's position on most of his teachings. They would say I was lying all of the time. So his position was that he was just going to wait for the next one and hope to give him enough fortification and support to get those ideas through. And that's when W.D. Muhammad surfaced on the scene and on the set. You can take that or leave it. You don't have to believe it. People's hearts will let them know what to acclimate towards when they hear it. And study it. Don't just hear it, study it. So these points of light are represented in our moments of realization, but they do not represent permanent clarity. And Najm are only temporary fluctuations of thoughts to study the stars. They're not steady. They're flutterings. They're flickerings of light. Newborn babies are also of this mindset. They have flickers of light. They just got here. And they're being exposed to sensations that they were not experiencing in the wombs of their mother. When these sensations dawn on them, it creates a flicker of light in their developing intellects, in the incremental progression of information coming into their minds based on this newfound exploration of creation and all of its possibilities. They don't know how to put it together. They don't necessarily know all of what it means. They know this is a beginning point. I should start here. But 21 years from now, I should not even be acting like this, although some do. And Najm is something that each of us come into at points in our life when understanding begins to dawn in the intellect or in the intuition. So we are born intuitive, not intellectual necessarily. We're born first and foremost as intuitive beings. We have a sense of things when we get here. We can't tell you for sure. You can't lock up a person and say, he's a criminal, he touched me, he did this, he stole from me. You can't do all that when you're an infant, not even after you start talking. But that, yes, he thought, but when he touched my hand, what are you talking about? So many of us would say, what are you talking about? They can't explain it in language that you would understand. They haven't been taught that language yet. How to make a decision, how to bring evidence, how to do this, that, and that. They haven't been taught like that. So they can just go on how they feel intuitively. I don't like him. Why don't you like him, son? That's Uncle Bobo. What's wrong with Uncle Bobo? I don't know. And he'll cry sometimes. All right, get him away from me. They're not always right, but that's what intuition does. It just intuits. It feels something, and they can't always describe it accurately. But that's also included in the study of intuition, which we'll be going into in the psychology class very soon. All of us are using these possibilities. All of us can heighten the use and value of these principles of how the mind works. But it all depends on our focus. See, it all depends on what they direct our minds to. That determines how significant these absolute genius types of observations of things become for us as individuals. Most of us will just choose to remain on the fundamental materialistic passion level. Just overwhelm ourselves with how a thing feels, even if it kills you. I think there's a song like that, even if it kills me. I want to keep on feeling this way. So this is something that each of us come into at points in our life when understanding begins to dawn in the intellect or in the intuition. These insights serve to direct the nafs or the soul towards the truth. However, these moments appear as sparks and not like steady beams of light like the sun. These are the sparks which shape our human personalities and is the reason we grow into multiple personalities. Listen carefully. Throughout our lifetimes. These sparks, I repeat, are shaping our personalities and is the reason why many of us grow into what the clinicians call multiple personalities. That means when I go talk to 5 of your best friends, they're going to have 5 different descriptions of who you are because how you are is morphing with each environment. And what is it about those environments that's causing you to morph? Your need to have them recognize you. It's an ego issue. So some of us will even grow into multiple personalities within the same lifetime. Normally, these dispositions in us, they grow into us, we grow out of them, you become different in middle age and different in old age and all, and that's normal, a shifting of personalities. Some people will become all of that in just a few years worth of lifetime. Lastly, the mirage of our Prophet Muhammad, that means ascension, in case you didn't know. I'm sure you heard or read about it. The mirage is not describing a physical event or journey in history. Oh, Instructor Bilal, you've gone off the deep end this time. You're saying our prophet didn't visit the seventh heaven and pray with all of the other prophets behind him and yada yada. You're saying that didn't happen, Instructor. Yes, exactly what I'm saying. Not as a physical event, not as a physical journey, and definitely not in history. Who saw it? Who reported on it? And the interesting thing about some Muslims is that they are bent out of shape over something that if they would just accept the fact of how what's being described is pertaining to the internal life processes created by Allah, they would be in a much better place in space if they understood how, or what this is actually referring to. But they want to stay stuck in this physicalized, materialized, literalized environment that the crafty scholars, on the most part, not all the scholars, but enough of them, have crafted for our belief system to accept and regurgitate. Muhammad is our inner faculty. Look that word up. It is an inner faculty. All of us possess it. And that faculty is supplying us with sound judgment and reason, who is constantly guiding us towards a higher understanding of our own inner script called Al-Kitab in the Quran. You have an inner script. There is an inner pen that is writing down the inner script. Pen in English just means 5. Pentagon, pentagram, bullpen. It just means 5. And 5 in Arabic is the circle. And what you write is coming from within you. And the writing that becomes known is the writing that is produced by your inner script. And that inner script cannot lie to you. It only writes down what it considers to be the truth. Do you know that there's something in you, in your human system, that does exactly the same thing? What is it? I mentioned it earlier. It's your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind couldn't lie to you to save its life. Everything that is fed to your subconscious mind, it believes. It has ultimate faith in that script. This is how we have been created by the source creator. There's a lot to say about that because there's a lot to say in the Quran about Al-Kitab. I get it. But the Quran says the first time it introduces the term Kitab, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. So ذلك الكتاب, that is the book. Al-Kitab, that is the book. What book? The book that Allah has created right within you to record reality, We call it, I said before, we call it our common senses. The infant is born with common senses. Nothing wrong with its senses. It can take in information, process information, regulate that information, grow that information, and establish that information in its maturity. And again, it is designed to bring us towards a higher understanding of our inner script so that we might base our lives on it, on a higher understanding of life itself. Now, there is something that gets in the way of that, and I'll explain that in a moment, and then we'll be through. Each of us has guided lights within our own consciousness, which is called, again, common sense. See, we're looking for some magic, presto changeo person to come and, give us a ball of light in his hand, like the magicians, and throw it at you, all of a sudden your life is different. Oh, I've been touched by a prophet. Oh, I've been taught by a seer or the magi, or you think this is what life is doling out to you because that's how we're taught, that your regular life is sinful. Your regular life is inferior. Why would you just want to be human? That ain't no fun. Don't you want to be a wizard like us? They're feeding us movies that are increasing this propensity in us for wizardry and magic. Peter Pan and all. They're feeding us all of this stuff so that we would not give the human life its due based on how it has been created. Fi asani taqweem. Where is that excellence? That's what I want to know. Where is that excellence? That Allah says He created, so you should believe, you should accept it if He said He created it. And He didn't say one or two of us, He said all of us, the whole kit and caboodle of us have been created. Fi asani taqweem, with Hasan, excellence, goodness. These guiding lights that are within our own consciousness, this common sense, as we are referring to it, can also be considered to be our Sahaba. When you read about the Sahaba, okay, accept what you normally think about Sahaba if that's the way you want to go. I'm not going to try to convince you other than that. I want you to use your own aql, your own intellect to make these determinations. Not because Instructor Benjamin Bilal said, I didn't accept it when I first heard it or thought about it. It was so different than what I was taught. I didn't just say, yeah, I can get with that. I'm looking to be a rebel. That's not what I did. I mixed and matched them. So well, let me see what I can get the most utility out of. Let me see what I can get the most benefit, the khair. Let me see which ones has the most khair. Then I made a choice. So these are our Sahaba, and they travel with us every day. Isn't that what they say the Sahaba of the Prophet did? Traveled with him on a daily basis. And they did that all of the time for the duration of his life. The Sahaba themselves are dependent on for guidance. They're dependent on to make issues that were nebulous, to make them clear, or at least clearer. They depended on these people, males and females, were Sahaba. They depended on these people for inspiration and to help balance out their lives when they were under the most excruciating and painful situations in their lives. And when they were in a position where they had to make decisions. So am I saying they didn't exist? No, I'm saying that they represented something in you that is even more important than their physical timestamp in history. Because what you carry with you as a human package continues the legacy of what those people merely represented. Many people in history who got tortured and who were starved out, and there still are in this earth. What makes those people better than some of my ancestors from Africa who went through some of the same stuff? What makes them better than my grandmother, who was kind and compassionate and who served the interest of her children and her community? I don't know of any black marks on my grandmother's heart. Either one of them in that day and time. They were people who did the best they could under the circumstances with no education in most cases. You know what makes that Sahaba 14, 1500 years ago a better person to follow than my grandmother? I don't think she is. They're at least equal, or my grandmother must be the superior. If I start naming the situation my grandmother had to deal with, my great grandmother, don't let me go back further than that. If I had to name those circumstances and situations that they had to exist under, man, hands down, grandma, you got this. Believed in God? Yeah. Jesus, whatever you want to call the idea of the source creator that they had. They used what they had. And I'll tell you something interesting about my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. She didn't knock the idea when we brought Islam to her. She didn't say, this doesn't sound right. She listened. She watched us make the physical ritual salat in her attic, me and my brother, and she was quiet as a church mouse. And then when we were finished, she said, that was nice. And we asked her, we said, well, Grandma, do you want to become Muslim? She said, no, baby. She said, I'm satisfied with where I am. If that's not a mature mind, you find one for me. She said, what I have is working for me in the church. Oh, man. We'll understand one day if we don't yet understand. All right. When we stop paying proper attention to this messenger, the common sense called Muhammad, he's many other things, but on the top of the list, he is representative of your human ability to produce common sense, even in the instance of your intellectual processes, the things you learn from books and from school and from your friends around you. And even in the absence of all of that, you still have common sense. There's no excuse not to follow the messenger called Muhammad in the Quran. And again, don't get it twisted. I'm referring to Muhammad right now as your regal common sense, untaught, untrained, umid, that one right there, the one who is untaught, untrained, and his companions, his shining stars, the example that he was able to create in people around him who became the beacons. He's not presented as a star, but his Sahaba are presented as beacons, as stars in a couple of the hadiths at least. So when we stop paying attention, proper attention to this messenger, this Rasul, and his companions, we become distracted and we lose the connection with the guidance that always exists within us. Do you think it's worse to lose the companionship with people who you'll never become a companion of, who existed centuries ago? Or do you think it's more vital for us to hold on to the connection to the Sahaba, to the shining, brilliant stars that are in your possession and in your grasp right now? They're right there with you. You don't believe me? Intentionally lose your common sense when making decisions about important matters and see what happens to you. I got a bunch of money. Common sense says I need to save some for a rainy day. I'm not going to do that. I know common sense is saying that, but my mind says there's this female that I'm trying to get, and I'm going to buy something to make myself look flashy and make myself look rich and make myself look good. I'll do that for her, and then I'll worry about the common sense thing later down the line. This is the example of the brothers of Yusuf in the Quran, if you're not recognizing it. I know I shouldn't do this, but yeah, another thing, I'll do that later. Yeah, we'll repent later. Well, let's do this thing now. Let's kill Yusuf. Killing Yusuf is also killing common sense. You Muslims, you're going to wake up one day and realize how much time you actually wasted in fairy tales and mythology. by allowing these minds, these stray minds in the world, to interpret your Quran for you instead of you doing the research and understanding him for yourself, because he is in you. They are in you. It is in the masjid, all of that. It's inside of you also. That's how you correct what's going on the outside, by comparing and contrasting. What are they saying about the inviolable masjid that's also inside of you? If you don't know that, you won't even know what to look for. You look for somebody spitting on the carpet when you go to Mecca. Oh, he violated. And if he violated, this can't be the environment. We got all kinds of crazy kinds of non-commonsensical ways of determining what's being said in the Quran, when all you have to do is learn more about the essential you, called the nafs. That's the central theme of the Quran. So that guidance is always in you. The world of Islamic scholarship has trained us to look for that guidance outside of what our source creator has already installed within us as a program. And that is the reason why the present day Muslim world is in a shambles that they cannot undo just by taking Shahadatain. You can't undo what the world has done to you. You really did it to you. They couldn't do anything to you that you didn't allow. It happens when the human being forgets his common sense, which is the most profound form of wisdom. Stop thinking common sense is just common stuff that old people know and young people might practice some common sense. No, that's not what common sense is as we're describing it. That common sense comes in the profound wisdom that a human being portrays, because he knows this is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to say, and this is the right time to say it. The light of common sense is necessary for providing insight towards the true establishment of community or social life. We refer to the Sahaba as stars also, as I mentioned. They represent an alignment. So when you look at the stars, that's how they can form those pictures of the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, and all of that, because they represent an alignment that's taking place or can take place in you from your thoughts mostly. So they are an alignment of human traits operating inside of each of us. And the four major Sahaba, and I believe this is why they're not mentioned by name in the Quran, because they're not names and individuals. They are personality types that represent certain intrinsic and internal, invaluable principles of operation that Allah created to operate within us. Foresight, for one. Abu Bakr, how the intellect functions. Umar, experience and healing, represented by Uthman. An inner light of constant awareness. Awareness that never wanes. Ali. We'll explain these in details on a different day, but that's enough for you to work with in the present. These traits appear in us, but only when we are able to subjugate the ego, as I mentioned earlier. The ego demands attention. This is why Allah has to say, La ilaha illallah, that there's nothing worthy of that level of attention except for Allah. That worthiness of the ego, or that ability to want attention, that's happening in the ego department. Because again, it demands that you pay attention to it. It is the king. See, the solar plexus represents the human ego. The solar plexus is the king of this lower part of your life. It's not a part of the higher consciousness, the ego. It only comes up to the solar plexus. If you get a picture of it, you'll see where the solar plexus is, right there, around the gut area, just above the gut area. all of the greed and the gimme, 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 all of that is taking place in the area of the solar plexus. They call it solar because it does what the sun does. It provides a certain level of light, yes, but it doesn't provide the light that the mind possesses, that the pineal gland supervises. The difference is that this solar plexus light, it provides light only for the people in its region and the people it's related to. The sun is not shining all over the planet at the same time. Read the surah called Ash-Shams, the sun, and you'll begin to understand more about how the ego operates in the human vessel. And the ego is doing that primarily for social purposes, just like the sun is performing a social role by allowing the environment to be conducive for people who want to come out and mingle. Can't do that in the dark. No, the sun is saying, come on out, work together, build my kingdom. That's the ego doing that, which is all good. As we said, it's all Allah created everything higher. And he only accepts that which is higher. That means that what is left in the end of it is still going to be useful and beneficial for humanity, even if the ones who are supervising that life tyrannically, even though they don't like it. And that's given in a different place in the Quran. Allah's going to establish his way, even though these Muslims can be adverse to it. They don't like it. But the deeply rooted common sense has the ability to cut through it all. If you can learn to quiet the ego and its amplifications, that's going to be our study over the next few weeks, actually, or a few months. We don't want to put a week in this scenario. It'll be over the next few months because I got to give you something to munch on, don't I? And we will further discuss these points in our next class. So it's late, and we've spent a lot of time today in this class. Hopefully, most of you have had a chance to stay with us and evaluate what's been said. I thank you for being here. I'm not going to take any questions today. If you have any, just simply put them in an email or in a, don't put them in this chat because this is about to shut down. So just send them to me independently. Okay. And I know there's a lot more of you in the audience than are showing up on my screen. And I thank you also, although I can't visually see you, we're going to do something about that soon. It's in the machine that's doing that. But again, thank you all. As I greet you in the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of you to keep the peace with the words, Salamun alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you, instructor.
It's my pleasure. I saw William pop back up. Is it because you needed to say something?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have anything important they need to really say? I
Thank
wouldn't
you.
want to cut you off like that. Okay.
Yes,
Well, that's
thank you
important.
all for your
Thank you.
duas. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for staying with me. That's a
SubhanAllah.
task. That's a task, you know. All right.
No, it's all cool.
I love it. All right, you guys.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank
All
you
right.
for
Peace
the
to you and
growth
your
and
families.
development.
Jazakallah khair.
Yes.
That reminds me of William Bendix,
Okay.
The Life of Riley.
Yeah, you remember that, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm down here living the life of Raleigh.
There you
So
go. There
come
you go.
see us sometimes.
That sounds like a winner.
All right. Peace.
Oh, they come.
Super.